Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Wide Awake Horror today. Just want to say, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join the family. And as always, if you like these stories, you know what to do. Smash that like button and let us know in the comments what you think. And as always, enjoy the stories.
I didn't even want to go on the date. That's probably the part that bothers me the most now. If I had just stayed home that night, none of it would have happened, or at least I wouldn't know about it. I only went because I was bored and my friend kept saying I needed to stop staying all the time. So I downloaded the app again, scrolled for maybe 10 minutes, and matched with her. Her name was Leah. Her profile was simple, not trying too hard. Just a few pictures, nothing overly edited, and a short bio about liking quiet places and late night drives. She didn't look fake, which is rare on those apps. We didn't talk for long before deciding to meet. That should have been a warning, but it didn't feel weird at the time. Some people just don't like texting much. I figured she was one of those. We picked a place about 20 minutes from where I live. Not too busy and not completely empty either. One of those small restaurants that's always kind of quiet, but never fully dead. The whole day leading up to it, I felt normal. No weird gut feeling, nothing telling me not to go. I'd even remember thinking this might actually be decent for once. I got there a bit early and sat near the window. I kept checking my phone, just out of habit, not because I was nervous. Everything felt normal. That's what makes it worse now. She walked in about 5 minutes later. I recognized her right away from her photos. Same face, same hair, nothing off about it. She smiled, came over, sat down like it was completely normal. And for the first few minutes it was. We started talking about basic stuff. Work, where we grew up, all the usual things people say on first dates. Nothing stood out. Then something small happened that didn't really register at first. She mentioned the town I grew up in. I hadn't told her that. Not on the app, not in person yet. It hadn't come up. I remember pausing for a second, trying to figure out if I'd said it earlier without noticing. Sometimes I talk without thinking, so I brushed it off. I just assumed I'd mentioned it and forgot. But then she got more specific. She started talking about a street near where I grew up. Not a main road or anything obvious. It was a small side street that only people who lived there would know. That's when I actually noticed. I asked her how she knew that place. She just said she'd heard of it. That answer didn't make sense, but she didn't act weird about it. She just kept talking like it was normal. I tried to move past it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Then she brought up something else. My old school. Not just the name, but details about it. The layout, the feel behind it, even the broken fence that was there for years. I felt this tight feeling in my chest, like something wasn't adding up. I asked her again how she knew all this. Same kind of answer. Casual, like it wasn't a big deal. At that point, I started replaying everything I told her, trying to figure out if I'd somehow given her all this information without realizing. But I hadn't. We barely talked. Then it got worse. She started talking about things I had never told anyone I met online. Now you, my friends, now know some of this stuff. She mentioned a time from when I was a kid. I must have been around 8 or 9. I got lost in a supermarket and ended up in the storage area behind the doors. I remember sitting there, crying, until someone found me. I haven't talked about that in years. I didn't even remember it properly until she brought it up. The way she described it was exact. The gray floor, the loud humming sound from the machines, the way I sat near the corner. I felt like I couldn't breathe for a second. I asked her straight how she knew that. She looked confused, like I was the one being weird. And she said she'd never met me before. That's when everything shifted. Before that, it was just strange. After that, it felt wrong. I tried to laugh it off, like maybe she was guessing or mixing me up with someone else, but she kept going. Every time she mentioned something, it got more specific. She talked about the time I broke my arm falling off a bike near my old house. Not just that it happened, but the exact spot. The hill, the cracked pavement at the bottom. She even mentioned the color of the bike. No one knows that except my parents. I started feeling cold, like my whole body just dropped. I checked my phone at one point, thinking maybe this was some kind of prank. Maybe my friend set this up somehow. But there was nothing. No messages, no signs of anything like that. And she kept acting completely normal. That's the part that messed with me the most. She wasn't acting creepy or intense. She was calm, relaxed, like we were just having a normal conversation. but everything she was saying wasn't normal. At one point, she brought up my old house. Not just the street, but the exact house. She described the front garden, the uneven steps, even the small crack near the window. I haven't lived there in years. I didn't know what to do anymore. I didn't want to cause a scene, but I also didn't want to sit there and pretend this was okay. I asked her again if she was sure we hadn't met before. She said no. Completely certain. Then she asked why I kept asking that. I didn't even know how to answer that. I felt I was stuck between thinking she was lying or something much worse that I couldn't even explain. Then she said something that made everything stop. She mentioned my old bedroom. Not just that I had one there, but how it looked. Where the bed was, the posters on the wall, even the small dent in the door from when I slammed it once. No one should know that. No one. I remember just sitting there staring at her, trying to figure out if this was real. I asked her how she knew about that. She paused for a second, like she was thinking. Then she said she didn't. She said she was just guessing. But there's no way anyone could guess that. Not that specific. Not that accurate. I started noticing small things after that. The way she looked at me sometimes like she was trying to remember something. The way she hesitated before answering certain questions. It felt like she knew more than she was saying, but at the same time, she seemed genuinely confused when I pressed her. Like she believed she didn't know me. That's what made it worse. If she had just admitted it, it would have made more sense. But she didn't. We ended the date not long after that. It wasn't dramatic or anything. Just a normal ending, like two people who might or might not see each other again. But it didn't feel normal. I walked home feeling like something was completely off. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to make sense of it. There wasn't any. When I got home, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went looking through old photos and stuff my parents kept. I found pictures of my old room. Everything she said was right. Every detail. Even things I had forgotten until I saw them again. I checked her profile again later that night. It was still there. Same photos, same bio, nothing changed. I even scrolled through her pictures carefully, looking for anything that could explain it. There was nothing. No connection to me. No mutual places. Nothing. I didn't message her again. Neither did she. A few days later, her profile disappeared. Just gone. Like she deleted it or unmatched me. I tried to find her again, but I couldn't. What bothers me now isn't just what she knew. It's how she acted about it. Like she genuinely believed she'd never met me. Like those memories weren't something she should have. I still think about it sometimes, usually late at night when I can't sleep. Trying to figure out how someone could know things like that without ever being there. Or if she'd been there somehow. And I just didn't remember. I knew I was being ghosted before I even admitted it to myself. You can always tell. The replies get slower, then shorter, then they just stop completely. It's like watching someone walk away in slow motion but pretending they're still there. The annoying part is the date was actually good. Like actually good, not just me trying to convince myself it was. We met on the app, talked for a few days, nothing crazy, then decided to meet up. It felt easy. No awkward pauses, no forced conversations. He was funny in a normal way, not trying too hard, and he actually listened when I talked. His name was Ethan. We met in a small late-night cafe near the edge of town. Not one of those trendy places, just a quiet spot with dim lighting and old booths that probably hadn't been changed in years. It felt kind of calm in there, like time moved slower. The whole date lasted maybe 2 hours, but it didn't feel like it. He walked me back toward my street after, not all the way to my house, just close enough. It didn't feel weird or rushed. Everything about it felt normal, which honestly made it stand out more. Before we split off, he said he'd text me when he got home. He never did. At first, I didn't think much of it. People forget, or fall asleep, or get busy. I went to bed thinking I'd probably wake up to a message. I didn't. The next day, nothing. I waited a bit before messaging him first. Just something simple, not clingy or anything. No reply. That's when I started to feel it. That quiet, annoying realization that it's over before it even started. I checked the app. His profile was still there. He hadn't unmatched me. That made it worse somehow. Days went by, still nothing. I even checked his profile again at one point just to make sure I wasn't imagining things. Still there. Same photos, same bio. Just no messages. After about a week, I gave up. I stopped checking. Deleted the app for a bit, just to avoid thinking about it. It was annoying, but not exactly unusual. People ghost all the time. I moved on. Or at least I thought I did. About 3 weeks later, I re-downloaded the app out of boredom again. I wasn't even thinking about him anymore. Then I saw the notification. A message. From him. I remember staring at his name for a second, trying to process it. It felt weird, like seeing someone you thought you'd never hear from again just pop back up like nothing happened. I opened it. The message wasn't normal. It wasn't an apology or an excuse or anything like that. It was messy, like rushed. He said something about not having much time. Something about needing me to remember him. It didn't make sense. At first, I thought maybe he was joking or trying to be dramatic for attention, but it didn't read like that. It felt off. I replied, asking what he meant. He answered quickly, too quickly. His messages were all over the place. He kept saying things about being reset, like it was something normal to say. He said he wasn't supposed to remember things, but he did this time. That's when I started feeling uneasy. I asked him what he was talking about, and instead of explaining, he started mentioning things from our date. Small details. The table we sat at, the drink I've ordered, the exact joke he made about the broken light in the corner. Stuff that only someone who was there would know. But the way he said it made it sound like it wasn't supposed to exist anymore. Like those memories had been wiped or something. I didn't know how to respond to that. Part of me thought he was messing with me, but another part didn't buy that at all. It didn't feel like a joke. Then he said something that made everything worse. He said if I saw him again, I had to act like we'd never met. I just stared at my phone. He kept sending messages like he was panicking but trying to stay controlled. He said they were watching patterns. That repeating things was what got him taken. I didn't even know what that meant. I asked who he was talking about. He didn't answer directly. He just said not to trust anything that seemed normal. That's when I almost blocked him. It felt like too much, like I'd somehow gotten involved in something weird without realizing. But before I could do anything, he sent another message. He asked me to meet him again. Same place. Same time. He said it was important. I shouldn't have agreed. But I did. I think part of me just wanted answers. Or maybe I didn't believe it was real. The whole thing felt too strange to actually be happening. The day of the second meeting felt completely different from the first. Before, I was relaxed. This time, I kept checking the time, checking my phone, thinking about everything he'd said. I almost didn't go. I actually stood outside the cafe for a few minutes debating whether to just leave. But then I went in. He was already there, sitting in the same spot as before. Same posture, same clothes style, same everything. But something was off. I could tell immediately. It wasn't anything obvious. He looked exactly the same. But the way he moved felt slightly delayed, like he was reacting instead of acting. I sat down across from him. He smiled, but it didn't feel real. Like he was copying the version of himself from before. He started talking like it was our first time meeting. Same kind of questions, same tone. Like he didn't remember anything. I tried to play along at first, just to see what would happen, but it felt wrong. I brought up something from our first date. He didn't recognize it. Not even a little. It was like talking to a different person wearing the same face. Then something small happened. He paused mid-sentence. Just stopped. His expression changed slightly, like something clicked for a second. And he looked straight at me. Not like before. This time it felt real. Like he actually saw me. He didn't say anything different, but his face shifted in a way I can't really explain. Like he was trying to remember something and couldn't fully get there. Then just as quickly it was gone. He went back to normal. Like nothing happened. I felt this weird pressure in my chest the whole time after that. Like I was sitting with someone who wasn't fully there. We stayed for about 30 minutes. It felt way longer. Before we left, he said he'd text me again. Same as last time. I already knew what was going to happen. And yet he didn't. Again. When I got home, I checked the app. His profile was gone. This time completely. not just the chat. Everything. Like he never existed. I went back and read our messages from before, but even those were gone. The only thing left was what I remembered. And that one moment in the cafe where he looked at me like he actually knew me. It's been a while now. I haven't seen him again. But sometimes I think about what he said. About being reset. About not remembering. And the part that sticks with me the most is how real he seemed for that 1 second. Like he was still in there. Just not for long. I didn't realize how weird it was until I was halfway through my meal, and she still hadn't even picked up her fork. At first it just felt like one of those small things you don't question, like maybe she wasn't hungry or she'd already ate. But it kept going, and the longer it went on, the more it started to feel wrong in a way I couldn't explain. The date itself wasn't supposed to be anything serious. I had just moved into a new area for work, didn't really know anyone, and got bored enough to download a dating app again. Same cycle as always. Scroll, match, maybe talk, maybe not. That's where I found her. Her name was Carara. Her profile was simple, almost too simple. 2 photos, both kind of plain. No big smile, no dramatic poses, just her standing in different places looking straight at the camera. Her bio was barely anything, just a line about liking quiet evenings and people who pay attention. I remember thinking that was a weird thing to write. People who pay attention. I matched with her anyway. Our messages were short but consistent. She didn't send long replies, but she always replied quickly. There was something kind of focused about the way she typed, like she was paying full attention to everything I said. It didn't feel flirty or overly friendly, just direct. After a couple days, we agreed to meet. She picked the place. That should have been my first warning. It wasn't a popular restaurant or anything. It was this small place on the edge of town, kind of tucked between a closed-down shop and an empty parking lot. I hadn't even noticed it before, and I'd driven past that road a few times already. When I got there, it was quieter than I expected. Not empty, but close. A couple people at one table, one guy sitting alone near the window, and that was it. She was already there, sitting at a table near the back. I recognized her immediately from her photos, but in person she looked slightly different. Not in a fake way, just stiller. Like she wasn't reacting to things around her the same way other people do. I sat down, and everything started normal. Basic conversation, same as any first date, where I moved from what I'd do, stuff like that. But even early on, I noticed something. She was watching me. Not in a normal way. Not like someone making eye contact during a conversation. It was more constant than that, like she wasn't really looking away at all. At first, I thought I was overthinking it. Some people just have intense eye contact. Then the food came. I ordered something simple, and she had ordered 2. At least I thought she did. When the plates were set down, she didn't react at all. Didn't look at the food. Didn't reach for anything. She just kept looking at me. I picked up my fork and started eating, trying to act normal. I figured she'd start once I did. She didn't. A few minutes went by. Then 10. Her food just sat there untouched. Not even moved slightly. I asked if everything was okay, trying to keep it casual. She said yes. Then went back to watching me. That's when it started to get uncomfortable. There's something about being watched like that while you're eating that makes everything feel off. Every movement feels too noticeable. Even just lifting a fork feels strange when you know someone's paying that much attention. I slowed down without really meaning to. She noticed. That's the thing. She noticed every small change. If I paused, she reacted. If I moved, her eyes followed it instantly. It didn't feel natural. At one point, I took a sip of my drink, and I saw her eyes shift to the glass, watching it like it mattered. That's when I got this weird thought in the back of my head, like she wasn't just watching me. She was studying me. I tried to shake it off. I kept eating, but it didn't feel normal anymore. 7. She still hadn't touched her food. Not even once. It got to the point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. I asked why she wasn't eating. She said she wasn't hungry. But the way she said it didn't match the situation. Who orders a full meal and then doesn't even touch it? The longer it went on, the more tense everything felt. The restaurant was quiet, but it felt even quieter around our table. Like everything outside of it didn't matter. Just me and her watching me. I started noticing other things too. She barely blinked. Not in a creepy, exaggerated way, just less than normal. Enough that it stood out once I paid attention. And every time I looked away and then looked back, her eyes were already on me, like they hadn't moved. I finished my food faster than I wanted to, just have something to do. She didn't react when I was done. Didn't comment on it. Just kept watching. After a while, I said we should probably leave. She agreed immediately. No hesitation. We got up, and I noticed something that made my stomach drop a bit. Her food was exactly how it had been when it arrived. Completely untouched. Not even slightly disturbed. We left the restaurant, and outside it felt different, like I could finally breathe again. She seemed more normal out there. Less intense. We walked for a bit, just around the block. The conversation was easier, but something still felt off. Like whatever had been happening inside hadn't really stopped. Just quieted down. Eventually we split off, and that was it. No weird ending. No big moment. Just a normal goodbye. I went home trying to convince myself I'd imagined most of it. That maybe she was just awkward or nervous. But it didn't sit right. The next day, I looked her up again on the app. Her profile was gone. Completely gone. Not unmatched. Just not there anymore. I didn't think much of it at first. People delete their profiles all the time. But something about it stuck with me. A few days later, I was talking to someone at work about weird dates, just random conversation. I mentioned the restaurant. That's when things got worse. They recognized it immediately. Not as a popular spot, but as a place people don't really go to anymore. I asked why. They told me there had been stories about it. Not confirmed stuff, just rumors. About people meeting there and then disappearing. At first, I thought they were joking. Then they got more specific. They mentioned a few cases from the past couple of years. People who went on dates and were last seen at that exact place. I felt that same cold feeling again. I asked if they knew any details. They said not much, just that in a few of those cases, the last person seen with them was a woman. No clear description, just that she didn't eat. That part made my chest tighten. I didn't tell them anything else. I just nodded and changed the subject. Later that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I went online and started searching. It took a while, but I found small mentions. Nothing big, nothing official, just scattered posts and comments. People talking about missing persons. About dates that never led anywhere because one person never came back. And in a few of those, there were details that matched too closely. A quiet restaurant. A woman who barely spoke. And one specific detail that showed up more than once. She never touched the food. I sat there staring at the screen for a long time after reading that, thinking about how she watched me. Every bite, every movement, like it mattered. I don't know what would have happened if I stayed longer, or if I hadn't left when I did. What I do know is I haven't gone back to that place. And sometimes when I'm eating alone, I catch myself looking up, half expecting someone to be watching me the same way. I didn't notice it at first because everything about him was designed so I wouldn't. That sounds dramatic, but it's the only way I can explain it now. Every part of how we met, how we talked, even where we went, it all kept things just dark enough that I never questioned what I was looking at. If I had seen him properly the first time, I would have left immediately. I matched with him on a random night when I couldn't sleep. It was late, like past midnight, the time where everything feels a bit unreal anyway. His profile stood out because his photos were all taken at night. At first, I thought it was just a style thing. Some people like that kind of vibe. Streetlights, shadows, city backgrounds, that kind of thing. His name was Lucas. He looked good in his pictures. Not overly perfect, just enough to seem real. But looking back now, I can't clearly remember his face from those photos. I remember the lighting more than anything, the way shadows covered parts of him. We started talking right away. He was easy to talk to, maybe even too easy. He always replied fast, and he kept the conversation going without it feeling forced. It felt natural, like I didn't have to think about what to say next. After a couple nights of messaging, he suggested meeting up. but only at night. He said he worked during the day, which wasn't that strange. Lots of people do. I didn't question it. We met for the first time around 10 at night. It was in this open area near the edge of town, with a few food places still open and dim lighting everywhere. Not empty, but quiet enough that it felt kind of private. When I saw him in person, everything matched what I expected. Or at least I thought it did. Same height, same general look. His face was partly in shadow, lit by the streetlights and whatever light came from the nearby shops. Nothing stood out. We walked around for a while, got something small to eat, sat on a bench and talked. It felt normal. Actually better than normal. He was funny, but in a calm way, not loud or trying to impress. The whole time, I never once thought something was off. That's what gets me. We met again a few nights later. Same kind of setting. Always somewhere dim. Always late. And every time, it felt fine. I started noticing small patterns, though. He avoided really bright areas. If we walked near somewhere with stronger lighting, he'd naturally steer us away without making it obvious. At the time, I just thought he liked quieter places. There was one moment during the third time we met that stuck with me. We were standing near a street lamp, one of the brighter ones. For a second, the light hit his face more clearly than before. I remember feeling like something didn't look right, but it passed so quickly I couldn't even process it. Like my brain just skipped over it. I didn't say anything. I just ignored it. We kept meeting like that for about 2 weeks. Always at night. Always in places where you couldn't see everything clearly. And then I ruined it. Or maybe I finally did something right. I asked if we could meet during the day. Just once. I don't even know why I asked. It wasn't planned. It just came out. He hesitated. Not long, but enough to notice. Then he agreed. That should have been the biggest warning. The whole day leading up to it felt different. I can't explain it properly, but everything felt slightly off. Like when you're about to remember something important, but it's just out of reach. We agreed to meet in a cafe in the afternoon. Bright, open, full of natural light. I got there first. Sat near the window. The sunlight was strong that day, coming straight through the glass and lighting up everything. It felt normal. Until he walked in. At first, I didn't recognize him. I saw him enter, but my brain didn't connect him to the person I'd been meeting. Then he looked at me, and that's when everything dropped. His face was wrong. Not in a simple way. Not like he looked different from his photos. It was deeper than that. The proportions didn't make sense. His eyes were slightly too far apart, but not evenly. One sat just a bit higher than the other. His mouth looked like it was placed too low, like it didn't line up with the rest of his face properly. His nose was narrow, but bent in a way that didn't match any normal structure. It wasn't extreme enough to be immediately obvious if you glanced quickly. But when you looked directly at him, it didn't fit together. Like someone tried to build a face from memory and got the details slightly wrong. I felt this instant wave of panic, but I didn't move. I couldn't. He walked over and sat down like nothing was wrong. Like this was completely normal. Up close, it was worse. The light made everything clear. There was no shadow to hide anything. Every detail was just off. And the worst part was his expression. He was smiling, but it didn't match his face properly. Like the movement didn't align with the structure. I felt sick just sitting there. I tried to act normal, but I couldn't stop staring. My brain kept trying to fix what I was seeing like it was a mistake that would correct itself if I looked long enough. It didn't. The longer I looked, the worse it got. I started noticing more. The way his eyes moved slightly out of sync when he looked around. The way his mouth stretched a bit too far when he smiled. It felt raw on a level I can't fully explain. Like my brain was telling me this isn't a person. He didn't seem to notice my reaction. Or maybe he did, and just didn't care. He talked the same as before. Same voice, same tone. That made it even worse. Everything else about him was consistent. Just not his face. I tried to cut it short. I said I wasn't feeling well, something like that. He paused for a second. And then something changed. Not fully, just slightly. His expression dropped. And for a second, his face looked even more wrong. Like whatever was holding it together slipped. I stood up almost immediately. I didn't even wait properly, just grabbed my stuff and left. I didn't look back. I walked fast, then faster until I was far enough away that I felt like I could breathe again. Later that night, I checked his profile. It was gone. Completely gone. I tried to remember his photos, but I couldn't. Not clearly. Every time I tried, my mind filled in shadows where his face should have been. Like it was never fully visible to begin with. I haven't seen him since. But sometimes when I'm out at night, I notice something. People standing just outside of the light. Faces you can't quite make out. And now I can't stop thinking about how easy it was to ignore something that obvious just because I couldn't see it clearly. I don't meet anyone at night anymore. Ever. The first time I noticed it, I thought my app was glitching. That's honestly what I kept telling myself even after it stopped making sense, because the alternative felt way worse. It started with a match that should have been completely normal. Her name was Mia. At least that's what it said at the time. I matched with her late one night while I was just scrolling without really paying attention. Her profile looked like every other decent profile. A few clear photos, normal bio, nothing that stood out too much. She looked real. Not overly perfect, not filtered into something fake. We matched, and she messaged first. That already made me pay more attention. The conversation was easy. Not dry, not overly intense, just normal. She asked about my day, what I do, the usual stuff. I didn't think anything of it. The first weird thing didn't happen until the next day. I'd opened the app to check our messages, and her profile picture was different. At first, I didn't question it. People change photos all the time. But this wasn't just a new picture. It was a completely different person. Different hair color, different face shape. Even the background in the photo looked like a completely different place. I stared at it for a while, trying to figure out if I had just remembered it wrong. That happens sometimes, especially if you match with a lot of people. But when I opened the chat, everything was still there. Same messages. Same tone. Nothing had changed except her profile. Her name was still Leah, so I ignored it. I kept talking to her like normal. She didn't mention the change. Didn't act any different. The conversation felt exactly the same as before. That should have been enough to make me stop, but it wasn't. I just told myself maybe she was using old photos before and updated them. That explanation lasted about a day, because the next time I opened the app, it changed again. New name this time. Not Mia anymore. Now it said Chloe. And the photos were different again. Another completely different person. This one had darker hair, a different style, even a different kind of background in every picture. I actually checked if I had opened the wrong chat, but I hadn't. It was the same conversation, same messages, even the same typing style. I scrolled up just to be sure. Everything was exactly where it should be, like nothing had changed. Except everything had changed. I remember sitting there for a good few minutes just staring at it, trying to make sense of it. Then she sent a message, right as I was looking at the profile, like nothing was wrong. I didn't know what to say, so I just replied normally. Part of me wanted to ask about it, but I didn't know how. How do you even bring that up without sounding insane? So I didn't. I just kept talking. But now I was paying attention. Every detail. Every small thing. And the more I paid attention, the worse it got. Her personality stayed consistent. That's what made it so strange. Even though the name and photos kept changing, the way she talked didn't. Same jokes. Same way of replying. Same timing. It felt like the same person wearing different faces. A couple days went by, and it happened again. New name. New photos. This time the profile said Hannah. I didn't even feel surprised anymore. Just this heavy, uncomfortable feeling like I was watching something I shouldn't be seeing. I finally asked about it. Tried to keep it casual, like maybe I was just confused. She responded like she didn't know what I was talking about. Like her profile had always been the same. That answer didn't help. It made it worse. Because she didn't sound like she was lying. She sounded normal. Completely normal. After that, I started checking her profile constantly. Every time I opened the app, I looked. Sometimes it stayed the same. Sometimes it didn't. There didn't seem to be any pattern. The names kept changing. The faces kept changing. Different ages too. I noticed that after a while. At one point the profile said 22, then 26, then 24. But the chat never changed. Not once. It was like the conversation existed separately from whatever the profile was doing. I started getting this feeling that I wasn't talking to a person anymore. Not in a dramatic way, just logically. Nothing about it made sense. No one changes everything about their profile that often. And definitely not while keeping the exact same conversation going without acknowledging it. I thought about deleting the chat, just blocking it and moving on. But I didn't. I wanted to see what would happen next. That was probably my biggest mistake. A week in, things got worse. She started bringing up meeting. At first, it was normal. Just asking when I was free, what kind of places I liked. But every time I checked the profile, it was someone different asking. Different name. Different face. Same conversation. Same tone. It started to feel like I was being pushed towards something. Like the profile didn't matter. Only the chat did. I kept putting it off. Making excuses. Saying I was busy. But she kept bringing it up. Not aggressively. Just consistently. Then one night, something changed. I'd opened the app and the profile didn't just look different. It looked wrong. I can't explain it properly. The face in the photo looked normal at first glance. But the longer I looked, the more it felt off. Like certain parts didn't line up properly. Not in a clear way, just enough that it didn't feel right. The name was something I hadn't seen before, and the age was blank. Just empty. That had never happened before. I opened the chat. Everything was still there. Every message. Every detail. Unchanged. Then she sent another message. Right away. Like she knew I was looking. This time the tone felt different. Still similar, but slightly off. Like it was trying to sound the same but didn't fully get it right. That's when I felt it clearly for the first time. I wasn't talking to a normal person. I don't know what I was talking to, but it wasn't that. I stopped replying after that. Just left the message there. Unread for a while. Then opened it. Then left it again. The next day, I checked the app. The profile had changed again. New name. New face. But this time something else was different. The chat history was longer. Messages I didn't remember sending were there. Not a lot. Just a few. But enough to notice. I scrolled up, trying to figure out if I had just forgotten. But I hadn't. They weren't mine. They were written in my style, but slightly off. Like someone copying how I talk. My chest felt tight just looking at it. I checked the timestamps. They were from late at night. Times when I was asleep. I know I was asleep. After that, I deleted the app. Not just logged out. Deleted it completely. I didn't want anything to do with it anymore. For a few days, I tried to forget about it. And it almost worked. Until I got a notification. Not from the app. From my messages. A number I didn't recognize. The message was short, but I knew immediately. Same tone. Same way of writing. I opened it. There was no name. No profile picture. Just the message. And for a second, I felt that same feeling again. Like something was still there. Still following the conversation. Even without the app. I didn't reply. I blocked the number. I haven't heard anything since. But sometimes when I'm scrolling through anything online, I get this weird feeling. Like something is watching patterns. Switching faces. Trying to match whatever I expect to see. And the worst part is, I still remember the chat perfectly. Even though I deleted it. Every message. Exactly how it was. Or at least how I think it was. The first voice note didn't scare me. It just confused me in that annoying way where something almost makes sense, but not quite. I remember replaying it like 5 times, thinking I misheard something, but every time it was the same. And the worst part is, it sounded like me. Not exactly like my voice, but the situation, the words, the tone, everything about it felt like something I would say. The problem was, I hadn't said it yet. I matched with him on a random weekday evening when I was just laying on my bed doing nothing. I wasn't even looking for anything serious, just scrolling because I was bored. His name was Daniel. His profile didn't stand out much. Normal photos, normal bio, nothing that made me think twice. He looked like someone I'd pass on the street and not think about again. We matched, and he messaged first. The conversation started normal. Nothing weird. Just basic stuff about work, music, random opinions. He seemed chill, not overly intense, not dried either. After a while, he suggested switching to voice notes. I didn't think anything of it. Some people prefer that. So we did. At first, it was normal. Short voice messages, just talking about random things. His voice matched what I expected. Calm, slightly quiet, nothing off about it. Then the first weird one happened. He sent a voice note, and when I played it, I froze halfway through. It was him talking, but he was describing a conversation. A conversation I hadn't had yet. He mentioned something about me complaining about my job, specifically about a coworker who always left early. I hadn't told him that. I hadn't even talked about my job much at all. But it was true. That exact situation happens all the time. The way he described it was so specific, it didn't feel like a guess. I remember just sitting there, staring at my phone, trying to figure out if I'd somehow already said it in a message and forgot. So I scrolled back. I hadn't. Not even close. I asked him about it. He replied like nothing was strange. Said he was just guessing. That answer didn't sit right, but I let it go. I told myself maybe it was a coincidence. People complain about work all the time. Maybe he just guessed something common. Then it happened again. The next voice note he sent was longer. And this time, it was more specific. He described me sitting on my bed, talking into my phone, saying I was tired and thinking about quitting my job. That exact situation. Down to the detail. I was literally sitting on my bed when I listened to it. But I hadn't recorded anything like that. Not for him. Not for anyone. I checked my phone recordings, thinking maybe I accidentally sent something. There was nothing. No recordings. Nothing even close. I didn't reply right away that time. I just kept replaying it, listening for anything that could explain it. There wasn't anything. It was just him describing something I hadn't done. Yet. That night, I tried to ignore it. I put my phone down and just watched random videos, trying not to think about it. Eventually, I fell asleep. The next day, I woke up to another voice note. I almost didn't play it, but I did, and I wish I hadn't. This one was different. It started normal, just his voice again, but then it shifted. He started describing a conversation between me and him, like an actual conversation. He said things I hadn't said yet, but the way he said them sounded exactly like how I talk. Same tone. Same kind of words I'd use. It felt like listening to a recording of something that hadn't happened. I paused it halfway through. My heart was beating way too fast for something that didn't even make sense. I didn't know what I was feeling at that point. It wasn't just confusion anymore. It was something heavier. Like I was hearing something I wasn't supposed to. I didn't respond that day. Not at all. I just left everything. Tried to forget about it. But later that night, I ended up opening the chat again. And there was another voice note. I didn't even remember him sending it. I just saw it sitting there. I played it. And this time, it made everything worse. He described me listening to the voice notes. Specifically how I kept replaying them. How I paused in the middle. Even how I looked around my room like someone might be there. I felt cold instantly. Because I had done that. Exactly that. After hearing the second voice note earlier, I had looked around without even thinking about it. And now he was describing it. Like it had already happened. Or like he knew it would. I started thinking maybe he was watching me somehow. That was the only explanation that made sense at the time. But even that didn't fully explain it. Because some of the things he described hadn't happened yet when he sent the voice notes. I checked the timestamps. They were sent before. That's what messed with me the most. If he was watching me, how was he describing things before I did them? I stopped using voice notes after that. I switched back to texting. I told him I preferred it. He didn't argue. He just went along with it. But the voice notes didn't stop. He kept sending them, even when I didn't reply. I stopped opening them for a while. Just let them pile up. But the curiosity got to me. It always does. After a couple days, I opened one again. And this one changed everything. It wasn't just random future conversations anymore. It was specific. He described me meeting him, where it would happen, what I would wear, even small details like how I'd hesitate before sitting down. I hadn't agreed to meet him. Not yet. But hearing it laid out like that made it feel like it was already decided, like it was going to happen whether I wanted it to or not. I felt stuck, like I was following something that had already been planned. I tried to break it. I told myself I wouldn't meet him, that I'd just block him and move on. So I blocked him, deleted the chat, everything. For a day, it worked. I felt better, like I had control again. Then I got another voice note. Not on the app, on my phone, from an unknown number. I didn't even know how he got it. I'd never gave it to him. I stared at it for a long time before playing it. Part of me already knew what it would be. When I finally did, I felt that same heavy feeling again. It was him. And this time he sounded different, more certain. He described me blocking him, deleting the app, even hesitating before opening the message. Everything I had just done. Then at the end, he said something that made my chest feel tight. He described the next day. Said I would go outside, walk to a specific place, and meet him there. I hadn't gone outside much since then. I know that sounds extreme, but I don't trust it. I don't trust that it's not already decided somehow. I still get voice notes sometimes, from different numbers. I don't open most of them, but the few I've opened always line up with things that happen later. Small things, but enough to keep me from ignoring it. I don't know if it's predicting what I'll do or causing it. That's the part I can't figure out. All I know is every time I listen to one, it gets a little more accurate. And the last one I opened described something I haven't done yet. Something about opening my door at night. I haven't done that. And I'm not planning to. But I keep thinking about it now. Like the idea is stuck in my head. And I don't know if that's me. Or if it's part of whatever this is. I noticed it in the worst possible way. Not slowly, not something I could ignore. It was instant, like my brain tripped over it and couldn't move past it no matter how hard I tried. I lifted my hand to my face, and my reflection followed a second later. Not at the same time. A second later. That shouldn't happen. There's no way to explain that in a normal way. It's either instant or something's wrong. And I don't mean like a mirror glitch or bad lighting. I mean it was delayed, like I moved first, and then whatever was in the mirror copied me after thinking about it. And the worst part is, it started after I met her. Her name was Ellie. I matched with her on a night I probably should have just gone to sleep. I wasn't looking for anything serious. I hadn't even used the app in a while. Just one of those nights where you scroll for no reason. Her profile caught my attention because it felt more real than most. No overdone poses, no filters. Just normal photos. One in her room, one outside somewhere that looked like a random street, one blurry one that looked like it was taken quickly. She looked like someone who actually existed. We matched, started talking, and it moved fast. Not in a forced way. It just clicked. She didn't waste time with small talk. The conversation went straight into real stuff. What we were doing that night, what we liked, random thoughts. It felt like I already knew her somehow. After a couple hours, she suggested meeting. I didn't hesitate. Looking back, I probably should have. She sent me an address. It was an apartment not too far from where I live. Not walking distance, but close enough that it didn't feel like a big deal. When I got there, everything felt normal. The building looked like any other. Slightly worn, nothing unusual. She let me in, and the first thing I noticed was how quiet it was inside. Not just the building, her apartment too. No background noise, no TV, no music, nothing. Just silence. She looked exactly like her photos. Same face, same expression. If anything, she looked even more real in person. We talked for a bit, just sitting in her living room. It felt easy, like the messages had just continued into real life. There was nothing that stood out as strange. No warning signs. No weird behavior. Everything about it felt normal. That's what makes it worse now. Because nothing gave me a reason to leave. I stayed for a while. Time passed in a way that felt kind of blurred. Not in a dramatic way, just like I wasn't really tracking it properly. Eventually, I left. The whole thing felt like it went how you'd expect. Nothing strange. Nothing to make me question anything. I got home, dropped my keys, went to the bathroom. And that's when it happened. I looked at myself in the mirror. And for a second, everything was fine. Then I moved. And our reflection didn't. Not right away. There was a pause. A tiny one. But enough. Then it moved to match me. I remember just standing there staring, trying to convince myself I imagined it. So I tested it. Slowly. I lifted my hand again. And there it was. That delay. Just a fraction of a second. But real. I stepped back from the mirror so fast I almost tripped. My heart was beating way too fast for something that didn't make sense. I tried again from further away. Same thing. Every movement I made, the reflection followed just slightly behind. Like it was copying me instead of being me. I didn't sleep that night. I kept checking every reflective surface in my apartment. Bathroom mirror. Window. Even my phone screen when it was off. It was always the same. A delay. Small. But consistent. The next morning, I told myself I needed to calm down. There had to be an explanation. Something with my eyes, lighting, anything. I avoided mirrors for a few hours. Tried to distract myself. Then I checked my phone. Her chat was still there. I opened it, half expecting something weird. Nothing. Just our conversation from the night before. I sent her a message. No reply. I waited a bit, then checked her profile. It was gone. Not unmatched. Gone. Like it never existed. I searched for her name. Nothing. I scrolled through my matches. Nothing. But the chat was still there. That's what didn't make sense. How could the chat exist if the profile doesn't? I tried calling the number she used to text me the address. It didn't connect. Like it wasn't a real number. That's when I started feeling that same heavy pressure again. Like everything was slightly off, but I couldn't fix it. I went back to the mirror. The delay was still there. Maybe even slightly worse. I moved faster this time. And for a split second, my reflection didn't just lag. It hesitated. Like it wasn't sure what to do. Then it caught up. I stepped back again, my chest tight. That wasn't just delay. That felt like something else. I stopped checking for a while after that. I covered the bathroom mirror with a towel. Avoided looking at anything reflective. But it didn't fully go away. You don't realize how many reflective surfaces there are until you're trying to avoid them. Windows. Screens. Even dark surfaces. I kept catching glimpses. And every time, there was that delay. Then a few days later, something changed. I walked past the mirror without thinking. And I saw it move. Before I did. Not by much. Just enough to notice. I froze immediately. Slowly turned my head toward the mirror. And this time, it matched me perfectly. No delay. Nothing wrong. Like it had corrected itself. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Because now I didn't trust it at all. I went back to the chat later that night. Still there. Every message. Every detail. But something new had appeared. At the bottom. A message I didn't send. It was for me. My name. My side of the chat. But I hadn't typed it. I stared at it for a long time. Trying to remember if I somehow forgot. But I knew I hadn't. It wasn't something I would have said. Not exactly. It was close. But slightly off. Like someone trying to sound like me. I didn't touch anything after that. I just closed the app. Now I don't check mirrors the same way. I don't trust what I see. Sometimes everything lines up perfectly. Sometimes there's a delay again. And once, just once, I saw it move before me. Only for a second. But that was enough. I haven't tried to find her again. I don't even know if she was real. All I know is something changed after that night. And whatever I see in reflections now, I'm not fully sure it's me anymore. I always thought dating apps were kind of dumb. I mean, the idea of scrolling through endless faces and bios just to find someone you might like felt exhausting. But there was this one night I decided to open the app just to kill time, not thinking much about it. That's when I saw him. His profile wasn't flashy or perfect. It wasn't some polished influencer look. It was casual. He had one picture sitting on a park bench, another walking down a street in a hoodie, and a third blurry one at a coffee shop. It felt real. I swiped right almost immediately. We matched, and he started talking to me in a way that was intense but not overwhelming. He seemed genuinely interested in everything I did, the way I spent my mornings, the way I liked to grab a coffee from the corner cafe on weekdays. He asked questions about little things that didn't even feel important, like what time I usually left the house, what streets I walked on, even what order I got my coffee in. I told him because I thought it was harmless. It felt like part of the excitement of dating someone new, feeling noticed. Our first date came a few days later. I wasn't really nervous because it seemed normal enough. We met at a small outdoor cafe I went to almost every morning. He arrived right on time, knew my usual order, and everything started off smooth. He made jokes that landed perfectly, laughed at the right moments, and didn't try to force anything. I didn't notice anything off at all. For the next few weeks, we kept seeing each other. He started learning more about my routines, remembering small details I had mentioned offhand and leading conversation. At first, it was flattering. Who doesn't want someone to notice the little things? But then it started to feel like he knew me too well, like he was watching me, learning me, memorizing my life like a map. I told myself I was overthinking. Then one night, the weird part started. I was walking home after grabbing a few groceries for the next day. I had laid out what I planned to wear the following morning, a simple green sweater, dark jeans, and black sneakers. I hadn't put it on yet, just set it on my bed so it would be easy in the morning. I turned the corner near the small park close to my apartment, and that's when I saw her. Her. Me, or at least, someone wearing exactly what I had planned to wear tomorrow. Same green sweater, same dark jeans, same black sneakers. The way she walked, the way she carried herself, it was me. I froze in the middle of the sidewalk, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. She didn't see me at first. She was walking slowly, deliberately, as if she was following the exact path I would take in the morning. My brain refused to process it. I blinked, hoping it was a trick of the streetlights or maybe someone wearing the same colors coincidentally. But then she turned slightly, and I caught a glimpse of her face in the dim light. It was mine. I stumbled back, trying to make myself disappear into the shadows. My heart was racing. My chest felt tight, like my body was shutting down from fear and disbelief at the same time. I watched her walk past, completely unaware of me standing there, and then vanish around the corner. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about it, rewinding the moment over and over. How is it possible? How could someone be me before I even put on the clothes? I tried to convince myself it was some kind of prank. Maybe someone had hacked my social media and knew my outfit plan. But nothing in my online life indicated anyone was watching that closely. The next day, I couldn't leave my apartment without checking constantly. Every person walking past my window made me jump. I noticed details I never did before, reflections in store windows, people turning corners, shadows moving. It was exhausting, mentally and physically. And then I realized something worse. My date knew. He had to know. There was no other explanation. He had been learning my routines for weeks, memorizing everything about me, and this wasn't just obsession, it was something else. Something calculated. I tried to confront it in my mind. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was some strange coincidence. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The timing, the details, the way this me appeared exactly in the outfit I had planned, it wasn't random. I stopped answering his messages for a few days, thinking distance might help me calm down, but the paranoia didn't leave. Every morning, I double-checked the streets, my reflection in the mirror, even my laundry. Was he watching me? Was he somewhere close, waiting to follow the same routines? I felt trapped in my own life, unable to move freely without thinking about him. One morning, I decided to test it. I changed my routine, the way I dressed, the path I walked to the corner cafe. Everything was different from what I normally did. I thought I was safe, but when I glanced back over my shoulder, I caught a movement in the distance. A figure walking exactly like I would have if I hadn't changed anything. Different clothes this time, slightly off from my new outfit, but still eerily coordinated. I ran the rest of the way home. I locked my door and refused to leave for the rest of the day. The walls of my apartment, once comforting, now felt like a cage. Every sound outside made me jump. Every shadow looked like it could be him. I stopped answering his texts entirely after that day. I changed my routines even more, varying times, paths, everything. It didn't stop me from feeling watched. I could sense it, the pressure of someone knowing exactly where I would be, what I would wear, what I would do. It followed me everywhere, an invisible presence that never left. I've tried to tell friends, but who would believe me? Someone following my exact routines, showing up in my life before I'd even make a move. It sounds insane. I've stopped using dating apps entirely. I've stopped talking to new people. My world has shrunk to the apartment I live in, the streets I can't escape, and the routines I try to disguise. And even now I notice details. Someone walking down the street, too slow, too precise, turning corners I would turn. And the thought hits me that maybe it's me again, or maybe it's him. Or maybe it's something else entirely, wearing someone else's life like a mask. I can't tell anymore. I don't go outside much. I barely leave my apartment. I keep my routine secret, my window is closed, my door is locked. But still, sometimes I catch a glimpse in a reflection, a shadow, someone moving exactly like I would, and I know I'm not imagining it. It started with a dating app, a seemingly normal connection, someone who learned too much. And now, my life isn't mine anymore. Someone, or something, is living it alongside me, just one step ahead, one step behind, always watching, always knowing. I never thought I'd get freaked out by a dating app. I figured they were just stupid little distractions for people bored at night, swiping endlessly while half watching a show or scrolling through random news. But I guess I hadn't realized how personal these apps can get, how much information you end up giving without even thinking. I matched with her one night on a whim, mostly because she looked familiar in a way I couldn't place, and her profile was just weird enough to catch my attention. There was no real bio, just a few casual photos. One sitting on a cafe patio, one laughing at a concert I hadn't been to, one of her holding a dog that wasn't mine but looked like it could be. I swiped right. At first, she was normal. She asked questions about my life, but it didn't feel invasive at all. It felt like attention, and after a long day, I didn't really care. Our conversation flowed easily, not forced, not over the top. I started looking forward to her messages, which I guess is normal when you match with someone new. But soon little things started feeling off. She remembered stuff I hadn't told her, not in a creepy, you told me in detail before way, but in a how does she know this way. Things like my whole apartment number, the exact subway car I usually take, the way I always sip my coffee when it's too hot. Little things, but ones that didn't make sense. It got worse when I tried to pull away. I decided after a week that maybe I was moving too fast, that I needed some space. I opened the app to unmatch her, expecting the usual tap, confirm, done. But as soon as I hit the button, the app froze. Completely froze. I closed it, restarted my phone, tried again. Crashed. Every time I attempted it, it crashed. And then, after about the third crash, a message appeared in my inbox from her. Just one line, you don't get to leave. Not again. I stared at my phone, heart racing. Not again. Not once, but again. My first thought was that someone hacked my account, maybe some glitch that sent a weird automated message when the app crashed. But the tone, it wasn't just mechanical. It had a weight to it, like she knew exactly how I felt, knew exactly what I was thinking when I tried to leave. I didn't respond. I thought if I ignored it, it would go away. But the next day, she sent another message. Something about how I couldn't run from her, how leaving was never an option. I tried but installing the app. I even reset my phone. Nothing worked. Every time I reinstalled, every time I opened the app, her profile was still there, waiting, even if I had unmasked her a dozen times, and the messages kept coming. I started noticing her in other places too. Not in person, not stalking me exactly, but in tiny ways that didn't make sense. I'd be walking past a cafe and see someone with the same jacket she had in a photo I hadn't saved. I'd scroll through a feed and see her profile pop up again, even though I had deleted the app and hadn't logged back in. It was like she was everywhere the app existed, and maybe even where it didn't. Sleep became impossible. I'd wake up thinking about the message over and over. Not again. You don't get to leave. The words drilled into my head. I kept checking my phone compulsively, opening and closing the app to see if she'd message again, as if I was trapped in some loop I couldn't escape. My friends noticed I was acting weird, not responding to texts, avoiding calls. I couldn't explain it. How could I tell anyone? It sounded insane, even to me, but I couldn't stop the feeling that she was somehow tied to me through that app, through the messages, through my account itself. I tried creating a new profile, thinking maybe I could escape by becoming someone else online. But as soon as I logged in, her profile was there again. Same pictures, same slight changes in angles, but the same profile. And the messages, still there, waiting, unchanged, almost like she'd been standing there watching me while I slept, typing the words directly into my new account. It didn't take long for me to realize this wasn't a normal situation. This wasn't someone just obsessed, not even a hacker. Something about her was different. She could be anywhere at any time. She could reach me even when I tried to erase every trace of her. And the more I resisted, the more persistent she became. The app wasn't just an app anymore. It was her. I started taking extreme measures. I deleted every dating app. I changed my phone number. I created new emails. But every time I did, every time I thought I'd escaped, there was her message waiting. Not once, not twice, but again and again. Each message was slightly more detailed, more personal, like she had been watching me while I thought I was safe, like she knew every corner of my life, every little routine, every way I tried to hide. I started documenting everything. Every crash, every message, every glimpse of her profile appearing somewhere it shouldn't. I even filmed my phone screen during crashes, tried to capture the phenomenon, but nothing looked abnormal on video. The messages seemed normal when recorded, normal when I tried to screenshot them. But when I held the phone in my hands, the words felt alive, like they were directed at me specifically, following me through every step of my day. Eventually, I started noticing the psychological effects. I was jumpy all the time, never relaxed. I stopped leaving my apartment after dark. I couldn't trust anything digital. My friends tried to help, but I couldn't tell them the truth. They wouldn't understand. Who would believe an app could trap you at a person or something pretending to be a person could keep messaging you endlessly even after you tried to escape? I thought about taking a break from technology entirely, living off the grid for a while. But even as I considered it, a message popped up on my old phone, which I hadn't used in weeks. You don't get to leave. Not again. I realized then that this wasn't just about the app. It wasn't just about her profile or her messages. It was me, my own life. Every time I thought I could pull away, she or it found a way to pull me back in. I can't say how long this has been going on. Days feel like weeks, weeks like months. Every time I blink, I see her profile on some screen I shouldn't be seeing. Every time I try to escape, the crash happens, the message appears, the words echoing in my head. You don't get to leave. Not again. I don't know what she wants. I don't know why I'm stuck in this loop. I don't know if uninstalling the app again would even help, or if it's too late. All I know is that every time I try to leave, every time I try to free myself, the app crashes and the same line appears like a promise, like a threat, like something inevitable. You don't get to leave. Not again. I've stopped trying now. I don't swipe. I don't open apps. I barely look at my phone. But I can't ignore the feeling that she's still out there, still in there, watching, waiting, knowing. And I don't know if I ever get a chance to leave. I thought dating apps were supposed to be fun. Just a little escape from real life, a way to distract yourself with someone else's photos and a few messages before bed. I wasn't expecting to feel like I'd stumbled into a horror story that was happening in real life. I matched with him late one night, scrolling half asleep, swiping because I had nothing better to do. His profile was sparse. Just a few photos. A casual smile in front of a coffee shop, a blurry shot at some party, a picture of him holding a vintage camera. There was no bio, no location, nothing. Normally, I scroll past profiles like that, but something about him caught my eye. Maybe it was his smile, or maybe it was that fleeting sense of familiarity I couldn't place. We started chatting. At first it was normal. Light conversation, a few jokes, typical small talk. But after a few days, I noticed things that didn't make sense. He knew things about me that I had never typed anywhere. Little details, tiny habits I thought were private. He could describe my morning routine as if he had been in my apartment watching me brush my teeth. At first, I thought maybe it was coincidence. Maybe he was a good guesser, reading me through conversation. But then it got specific. Too specific. I wanted to know more about him. I tried to find his social media, anything that linked back to a real life. Usually, I can find a person's Instagram or LinkedIn within a few minutes if I have their name and photos. But nothing came up. I tried every combination of his name, every photo reverse search, every online directory. Nothing. It was like he didn't exist anywhere outside of that app. I felt a knot in my stomach, but I kept talking to him, like I was hypnotized. Curiosity turned into a kind of fear. I decided to dig deeper. I started searching local missing persons databases for his photos. I didn't expect anything to come up. But then I found the first one. A report from 3 years ago. Same smile, same eyes, same camera holding pose. The name was different, but the face was unmistakable. Then another one popped up from a different state, a year earlier, again with another name, same face, and another. Dozens of them. Different names, different ages, different dates, but all the same face. I stopped sleeping. I started noticing things in my apartment that weren't right. My phone would light up when no one was messaging me, showing his profile on apps I hadn't opened. Sometimes I thought I saw someone outside my window, a figure standing in the dark, almost blurred, but the face was too familiar. I started questioning my memory. Was I remembering wrong? Were these faces really the same, or was I imagining connections? But every time I saw a photo, I knew it was him. Always him. Always staring like he was waiting for me to realize. I tried to tell myself it was just coincidence, that people can look alike, that the internet can play tricks. But the more I searched, the worse it got. News articles from years ago about missing people who vanished without explanation. Families still searching. And in every one, the photo was him. I started feeling like he wasn't just someone hiding a life online. He was a pattern, a face that appeared where it shouldn't, a ghost wearing different names and lives. I tried meeting him in person once. I told myself I could confront him, maybe see some rational explanation, maybe just end it and block him forever. He agreed to meet at a coffee shop I had picked out. I sat in a corner watching the door, heart racing, trying to prepare myself for anything. And then he walked in. Same face as the photos, same smile. But there was something off. Not in a weird physical way, just wrong. Too smooth, too perfect, like someone had photoshopped a human into the world and sent him to meet me. I wanted to speak, to ask him about the missing persons, to understand what was happening, but I couldn't. I froze. We sat across from each other. He didn't order anything, didn't say much beyond acknowledging me. But every time I looked into his eyes, I felt like he knew exactly what I was thinking, like he had been inside my head, reading every fear, every question, every doubt. I tried to leave after a few minutes, but my legs wouldn't move. I realized then that this wasn't just a person. This was something else. Something that wore faces and identities like clothing. Something that could exist anywhere, anytime, and I couldn't fight it. After that, I stopped meeting him. I blocked his profile, deleted the app, tried to disconnect completely. But the photos didn't leave my mind. Every missing persons report haunted me. I kept seeing his face in the news, and strangers at the grocery store, and the reflection of a shop window. Sometimes I think I'm imagining it, but then I see a detail I couldn't make up. The same smile, the same way he tilts his head, the same look that waits for recognition. I can't explain what he is or why he exists. I don't know if it's human or something that has learned to mimic humanity. All I know is that I can't forget him, and I can't stop searching, even though I know it's dangerous. I keep looking at missing persons reports, connecting the faces, the names, the dates. I keep thinking that maybe if I understand him, maybe if I track the pattern, I can figure out how he works, maybe even make him stop. But I never do. He keeps moving, changing names, changing faces, disappearing and reappearing in ways that make no sense. Sometimes I wonder if the app was just a doorway, a way to reach me, to get me to see him. I keep asking myself why I feel like I've been chosen, why I see him where no one else does. And every time I think I'm safe, Every time I convince myself that he's gone for now, I find another report, another name, another face that is exactly him, waiting somewhere in the world, like he's always been there and always will be. I've stopped trying to explain it to anyone. They wouldn't understand. They'd think I'm crazy, but I know what I saw. I know what I matched with. And I know that somewhere out there, in the shadows between the digital and real world, he's still out there, waiting for the next person to notice, the next person to see the face that shouldn't exist and realize too late that they found him. I don't know how to start this without sounding completely insane, but I guess I have to begin at the beginning. I'd matched with her on a dating app late one Friday night, scrolling after a long week of work and thinking I'd just swipe a little before sleep. Her profile was weirdly empty. No bio, just a photo of her sitting on a park bench at sunset, hair blowing in the wind like she belonged in a painting. Something about that picture made me keep swiping, even though I normally skip profiles with no information. I sent a message just to see if she'd respond. She did almost instantly, and that's when things started to get strange. At first, the conversation was normal. Just the usual small talk, questions about favorite music and movies, what we did for work. But she said something that made me pause. She claimed she could pause time. I laughed it off, thinking it was some joke or a weird pickup line. But the way she said it, it didn't sound like she was joking. She was serious. I wanted to challenge her, so I agreed to meet her in a small coffee shop downtown, hoping to figure out if she was just eccentric or something else. The day of our date, I noticed she had no phone with her. She didn't check it, didn't type anything, just sat across from me and smiled. I tried to ignore the unease creeping up my spine, but the moment she touched her coffee cup, everything around us changed. It was subtle at first. A bird outside froze mid-flight. A waitress paused mid-step carrying a tray. Even the chime of the cash register stopped. It felt like someone had hit pause in the world itself. My own movement slowed, like I was wading through molasses. At first, I thought I was hallucinating. I rubbed my eyes and blinked, but it didn't go away. She just sat there, perfectly normal, sipping her coffee, watching me like she was waiting for me to understand. And then I noticed it. Behind the frozen world, something was moving. Shadows creeping along the walls, a figure in the corner of the room shifting, something alive, but not alive, sliding between the frozen objects, moving like it didn't belong. I couldn't focus on it. Every time I tried to look directly at it, it disappeared or morphed into the background. I felt my heart pounding, but she was calm. She explained, without saying it out loud, that the pause was real, and that what moved in the background wasn't bound by the rules of time. I wanted to get up, to run, to leave, but I couldn't. My body felt trapped, like her power extended beyond just freezing everything. I could barely move, barely breathe. The figure in the background grew more defined as my panic grew. It was tall, dark, featureless, and seemed to stretch between spaces, moving along the edges of the frozen cafe. I could feel it looking at me, not with eyes, but with intention. The pause lasted longer than I expected. I lost track of how long I was stuck like that. My mind went through every logical explanation, every story I'd ever heard about time travel, glitches, hallucinations, viruses in the brain. None of it fit. None of it made sense. And when she finally lifted her hand, allowing the world to move again, it was like nothing had happened, but I knew it had. The shadows had vanished. The figure had gone, but the memory of it remained. And I felt like it had marked me somehow, like it knew I'd seen it. After that, I tried to leave. I thought if I left, I could put distance between myself and whatever that was. But she asked me to meet her again. I couldn't refuse, even though I wanted to. Every time I thought of running, a part of me wanted to go back, to see if I could understand what I had seen, to see the figure again, to see the pause in action. I told myself I was insane, that I was imagining things. But then she started texting me, even though I thought I had her blocked on every app. Messages appeared at odd times, sometimes when I had no service, sometimes when my phone was off. She would describe the background shadows as if she could see them moving even when I couldn't. The next date was in an abandoned warehouse she picked. She said it would be easier to demonstrate the pause without distractions. I arrived, and she led me to the center of a huge open space, dust motes floating and sunlight streaming through broken windows. She raised her hands, and the warehouse stilled. The wind stopped mid-flow, a rat froze mid-scurry across the floor. Even the dust motes hung perfectly still. And then, in the periphery, the shadows returned. They moved faster now, forming shapes that didn't make sense, stretching and contorting like liquid. I could see multiple figures, or maybe it was just one twisting and folding on itself. My head hurt from trying to focus, from trying to make sense of what I was seeing. It wasn't just creepy. It was alive in a way I couldn't comprehend. I realized then that these things existed in the gaps of time, the spaces where the pause allowed them to move freely. They weren't ghosts, not exactly. They were something else, something ancient and patient, using the pause like a window to slip into our world. And she was the only one who could control it. She smiled at me calmly, while I felt my mind breaking trying to understand how any of this was possible. I tried leaving that night, but the exit seemed different. The warehouse had shifted, walls subtly in the wrong places, doors that weren't there before, windows that overlooked empty darkness. I realized that being with her, being near her pause, meant being in the same world as whatever moved behind time. I could feel it pressing in, testing boundaries, like it knew I was thinking about it, like it was learning me. I ran blindly through the building, tripping over frozen objects that somehow weren't frozen for me, until I finally reached the door and stumbled into the night air. After that, I stopped seeing her in person. I tried blocking her on every app, changing phones, even moving to a different part of the city. But the messages didn't stop. They came at odd hours, describing moments in my life before they happened, describing what the shadows were doing, commenting on my fear. I stopped going out at night. I stopped trusting my own senses. I began to notice gaps in my perception, things moving slightly too fast or too slow, things that weren't right in the corner of my eye. Every time I blinked, I thought I could see it again, the twisting figure, moving just behind the edges of normal time. Eventually, I realized I couldn't live a normal life anymore. Every encounter, every interaction might be happening during a pause. Every shadow in the corner could be it, watching, waiting, testing. I've taken to sleeping during the day and avoiding mirrors. Sometimes late at night, I feel a subtle pressure in the room, like a heartbeat that isn't mine. And I know she's out there controlling the pause, letting the background shadows slip in and out of our world, reminding me that nothing is truly frozen, nothing is truly safe. I can't tell anyone about this. They'd think I'm insane. I can't show proof because no one else can see it unless she allows them to. All I can do is wait and hope that one day the pause ends and the shadows retreat, and maybe, just maybe, I can live in a world that moves at its own pace again. But I doubt it, because the last message she sent me, just as the sun set, read simply, "Do you see them now?" I never thought a dating app could make my life feel completely unsafe in the span of an evening. But here I am, sitting in my living room, lights on, doors locked, still wondering how I didn't see it coming. It started like every other casual chat I'd had on the app. I matched with a guy who seemed normal enough. Photos of him at concerts, holding a dog, a couple of selfies in front of cityscapes. Nothing alarming. Nothing that would make me think, even for a second, that I was about to cross paths with someone completely unhinged. We messaged for a few weeks, mostly late at night after work. I told myself I was careful. I didn't share my address. I didn't give away details that could identify me beyond the basics, yet the way he talked, the way he referenced things, made it feel like he knew me already. He didn't say outright, just little things. Mentioning the coffee shop I'd been going to that week, a show I'd seen live and posted about privately on social media, a joke about the route I took to get home from work. I brushed it off as coincidence at first, but the unease began to crawl under my skin. Then one night, he sent me a message that made my chest stop. Just a selfie. A normal selfie, at first glance. Him smiling at the camera, holding his phone like he just snapped it for fun. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. Behind him, through a window, I could see my apartment. My living room. The couch I was sitting on. The exact lamp in the corner. My cat perched on the armrest. I froze. I didn't move for a few moments, staring at the photo, double-checking angles, wondering if it was photoshopped. But the reflection in the window, the angle of the blinds, the way the light hit the wall, it was my space, my apartment, and I had been sitting there reading his message when it came through. He had been outside, watching me, waiting, taking the picture while I had no idea. Panic hit. My hands shook as I checked the window behind me. Nothing. Just a quiet street, dark and empty. My door was locked. I live on the third floor, which made it hard to imagine how he got up there without anyone noticing. I called the building security number, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried to convince myself it was impossible, that maybe I was overreacting. But then another message came. No text, no warning, just another photo. This one was a close-up of me, curled up with my laptop on the couch, staring at the first selfie on my phone, taken moments ago. I couldn't breathe. My mind raced. I grabbed my phone and ran to the window, heart hammering, peeking out over the railing into the empty street. Nothing. No sign of him. No car that had lingered. No shadow in the alley below. I locked the window, pulled the curtains, and sat on the floor, foam clutched to my chest, trying to process how someone could know exactly when I was reading his messages. He didn't just know my habits. He knew my exact moment-to-moment routine. I went through everything. My social media, my friends, anything that might have revealed my schedule. Nothing seemed off. But then I remembered the night I had posted a story on a different platform, just a short video of my living room. It was public for a few minutes before I deleted it. Could he have caught that? But the timing of the selfies didn't match the post. He was watching Liv. Somehow he had been outside, taking photos while I was inside reading messages I didn't even know were being monitored. Over the next few days, I became hyper-aware of every sound outside my apartment. The slightest rustle of leaves, a car door slamming, a cat mewing in the alley below, it all set me on edge. I started installing extra locks, checking the peephole constantly, even moving furniture away from the windows. But it didn't matter. The messages kept coming. They weren't just selfies anymore. Sometimes he sent short clips, little videos showing me from angles I didn't think anyone could see. He wasn't in the videos just me moving around, doing normal things, completely unaware. I didn't know what to do. I tried reporting him to the app, but nothing happened. It was like he had erased any trace of himself online beyond that profile. No social media, no phone number, nothing. It was like he existed solely to track me, to study me, and he had found a way that didn't require any digital trail. I stopped leaving my apartment except for work. I tried to get friends to come over, but even they started noticing things. Shadows near the windows, odd reflections, the sense of being watched. One night, exhausted and terrified, I decided to turn all the cameras in my apartment toward the windows, hoping for some proof, some explanation. The moment I powered them on, I got another message. Another selfie. But this one was taken from inside my apartment. From the corner of the living room behind the couch. The angle was impossible. I had cameras, I had locks, I had curtains, yet here it was, the unmistakable image of him, smiling at the camera, holding his phone, standing in a space I hadn't seen him enter. I panicked, smashed my phone, and unplugged everything. I ran to the window ready to scream, ready to confront the impossible. Nothing. The street was empty. The air was still. And yet I knew he had been here. I could feel it. A sense of being observed never left. Even now, writing this, I feel it pressing in. Every reflection, every slight movement in the corner of my vision makes my skin crawl. He can be anywhere. He knows everything. He doesn't need to be online. He doesn't need a digital footprint. He just waits. He watches. I haven't slept well in weeks. I avoid looking out windows, avoid my balcony, even avoid leaving the apartment when I can help it. And I know it won't end. No matter what I do, he can always find a way to be there, capturing me in real time, documenting every moment I think is private. Every notification, every light flicker, every shadow in my peripheral vision is a reminder. He is out there, watching, waiting, and the scariest part is knowing that this is just the beginning. He could be anywhere right now, taking photos I don't even know exist, from angles I can't imagine, while I sit here pretending to be safe. The next time I see a notification on my phone, I won't check it. I can't, but I know deep down I'll never be free of the feeling that someone is there somewhere, taking selfies of me without my consent, studying my every move, and waiting for the perfect moment to make his presence unavoidable. I don't know how to escape him. I don't know if I ever can. And every time I hear a slight noise outside my window, I remember that first selfie, and I know it's only a matter of time before the next one comes. I thought I was good at spotting weirdos online. I had been on enough dating apps to know what was normal and what wasn't. I swiped right on a guy, thinking he was just another face in the sea of profiles. His pictures were simple. Him in a coffee shop, him holding a skateboard, nothing that screamed danger. But the first message he sent had a weird timing to it. It didn't just feel like a normal greeting. It was like he already knew what I was going to say next, like he was reading my mind. At first, I shrugged it off. Maybe it was coincidence. But as the chat went on, it became obvious it wasn't. Every single response I typed, he predicted exactly. Not vaguely, not in a general sense, but word for word. I could be halfway through typing a sentence, and he would reply with the next words I was about to hit send on. At first, I laughed. It felt like a trick, a joke, maybe some kind of algorithm glitch. But then I tried changing it. Just typing something different, something unexpected, and he would get upset. Angry in a way that felt personal. He would send a string of messages calling me out for lying or messing with him, for not following the pattern. I started testing him. I would type something and then delete it, change my words at the last second, add a typo on purpose, anything to break the flow. Every time he reacted like it was a betrayal. He wasn't just a normal person anymore. He was aware. He was watching. Somehow he knew me better than I knew myself, or at least that's what it felt like. It got worse when he started commenting on things I hadn't typed yet, like predicting a thought I was having in the middle of the night or a phrase I would write tomorrow. I tried to explain it logically. Maybe he had studied my social media posts. Maybe he had read some old conversations. Maybe it was a coincidence, but deep down I knew it wasn't. No one could predict exactly what someone would type, down to the smallest word, without some kind of unnatural insight. Then it moved beyond chat. He started asking about things he couldn't possibly know unless he had been watching. Minor routines like when I would water my plants, which route I took on my evening jog while I ate for breakfast. And I hadn't told anyone this stuff, not even friends. I began to notice patterns in my life. He seemed to know them all. Every day I would type a message, and he would reply before I could finish, answering my own thoughts as if he had lived inside of my head. I tried blocking him, deleted the app, created a new profile, changed my phone number. Nothing worked. He found me anyway. New accounts, new numbers, new emails, it didn't matter. Every time I thought I was free, he appeared again, predicting what I would type next, and getting furious when I tried to send something different. I couldn't escape the feeling of being manipulated, of being watched, and most of all, the dread that I had lost all control over my own words. It didn't take long for this to invade my offline life too. Every time I tried to say something out loud, I could swear he was anticipating it. Sometimes I would start a sentence in a meeting at work, and I imagined him in my head, frowning because I was veering from the expected path. It was ridiculous and exhausting, but the fear that he was actually there, that he could predict me, was relentless. I stopped writing freely. I stopped chatting with anyone. My phone became a cage I couldn't escape from. I thought maybe I was losing my mind. I tried talking to friends, explaining it as best as I could, but how do you tell someone your online match knows exactly what you are going to type before you type it? People laughed. People said it sounded like paranoia, but then he started leaving messages that weren't even digital. Notes, small scraps of paper slipped under my door with phrases I had been thinking, sentences I hadn't said out loud, thoughts I hadn't typed yet. Words that should not have existed outside my mind. I tried to fight back, pretending to type one thing while thinking another, responding in ways he didn't expect. He would explode in messages, accusing me of dishonesty, of trying to trick him, demanding that I answer exactly how he predicted. It wasn't playful anymore. It wasn't a game. He had a way of controlling the conversation, of controlling me. And every time I attempted to reclaim my words, he retaliated, knowing what I intended before I even typed it. Sleep became impossible. I would wake up at odd hours, thinking of a response to something, only to find a message from him predicting it perfectly. I began writing thoughts in notebooks, trying to reclaim some part of my mind, only to find the same sentences scrawled on paper outside my apartment, carefully folded, waiting for me. I couldn't leave the apartment without fearing what he would do, how he would show up next, predicting my next move. Even my reflection in the mirror became suspect, like he was somehow seeing it too, anticipating every facial expression, every hesitation, every thought. It didn't end there. He started using my own words against me. My thoughts, my jokes, my confessions, all predicted, all manipulated, all weaponized. I couldn't trust myself. I couldn't trust anyone else. The sense of control I had over my own life evaporated. I realized I was living inside a system and I couldn't see, a loop where every action, every message, every word was preempted, and any deviation caused fury. My mind felt like a cage, my sentences no longer my own. Eventually, I stopped trying to fight. I stopped typing altogether. I stopped sending messages, stopped speaking freely, stopped thinking freely. The anticipation alone was exhausting. Even now, months later, I can feel him when I think of sending a message, predicting it, already angry in my imagination for words I haven't typed. He has claimed something of me, a territory of my mind, and I can't take it back. I don't know if I ever will. Every notification that pings, every light that flickers on my screen, every thought I have, carries the terror that he is there, knowing, predicting, waiting to explode because I dared to think differently than he anticipated. I don't leave the house much anymore. My keyboard sits untouched. My phone is silent in another room. I avoid thoughts that could generate messages he would anticipate. I live in a quiet, controlled existence, constantly policing myself, trying not to give him anything to predict because I have no idea what will happen if I do. I have learned to survive in this quiet paranoia, a life measured in controlled thoughts, because anything else leads to fury, and I have already felt the sting of that anger. I know it's out there, waiting, predicting, and I can never escape. I thought it was going to be just another boring Friday night swiping on my phone, half paying attention while I live on my couch with a leftover slice of pizza and my headphones blasting some random playlist. Dating apps are mostly a mess, right? But then I saw her picture, and I don't know. Something about the way she smiled made me swipe right without thinking. I expected the usual, maybe a few messages, maybe a couple of awkward meetups, and then nothing, but what happened next was straight up insane. We decided to meet at this little coffee shop that I used to go to with my friends after school, the one with those creaky chairs and cheap pastries that cost like $3 each. I got there first, sat in the corner by the window, and watched her walk in. She looked exactly like her pictures, but somehow sharper. I noticed every tiny movement, like she was analyzing the room as much as I was. When she sat down, she smiled and said she was surprised to see me there. I laughed, told her the usual small talk stuff, and that's when she did something that made my stomach flip. She started talking about my childhood. Not in a vague way either. She mentioned the summer I spent at my cousin's lake house when I was 10, the broken swing set I tried to fix on my own, even the time I got a nasty scrape on my knee from chasing the neighbor's dog across the yard. Every single memory came out like she was reading from a diary I never wrote, like she had been there. At first, I assumed she was just really good at guessing, maybe a little psychic, or she read some embarrassing post I made online years ago. But no, every story was dead on. I tried to steer the conversation toward normal date topics, asking about her favorite movies, what she did for work, stuff like that, but she kept circling back to things I hadn't told anyone in years. I mentioned an old dog I had that died when I was 12, and she laughed and said she remembered how upset I was when it happened. I froze. How the hell did she know that? I asked her where she grew up, thinking maybe we had crossed paths somewhere, but she insisted she'd never met me. She didn't know anyone in my town, she didn't go to my schools. Nothing. I wanted to laugh it off. I wanted to tell myself I was imagining things, that she was just incredibly perceptive. But she got every tiny detail right. She could even tell me what I liked to eat for breakfast when I was a kid, the shows I watched, the exact model of bike I had, even little scratches on my old desk from carving my initials into it. She knew things no stranger could know, things I hadn't told anyone, not even my best friends. It was chilling. I felt like my life had been exposed to someone I barely knew. As the date went on, I noticed other weird things. The way she moved, the way she ordered coffee, the way she laughed at my jokes. It all felt rehearsed, like she had watched me and memorized every reaction. I even caught her glancing around like she was checking something behind me. I tried to tell myself she was just nervous, but it didn't feel right. The more she talked about my past, the less human she seemed, like a script was playing in front of me. After an hour, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. We left the coffee shop and wandered into a quiet park nearby. She kept talking, and I kept listening, my mind racing. Everything she said was perfectly accurate, like she had been inside my memories and was just replaying them back to me. I thought about calling her out, asking how she knew all this, but I didn't. I was too freaked out. My stomach felt like it had a bunch of tiny knives in it, twisting every time she mentioned another thing from my past. We ended up sitting on a bench near a fountain. She told me about my first crush in middle school, the crush I barely even remembered myself, the one I never talked about with anyone. I stared at her, waiting for a punchline, a trick, something, anything that would explain it. But there wasn't one. She just smiled like it was normal to know everything about me. I thought about running, but my legs felt heavy. She made me feel like a character in a book she had read cover to cover. I don't remember how long we sat there. I kept thinking I should get up, that I should leave, but something about the way she stared at me made me pause. I felt trapped in a nightmare that didn't make any sense. It was like she was testing me, seeing how much she could get me to reveal without actually asking. I tried to think logically. Maybe she had a friend who knew me and told her stories. But then I remembered things she said that no one could have known. My hidden hobbies, little embarrassing habits, my secret fears. No one could have told her. Eventually, she asked if I wanted to go somewhere else, maybe get a drink or see the city lights from a hill nearby. I agreed, still in this weird trance, still trying to figure out how she could know everything. The walk there was silent mostly, but her presence was heavy. I kept glancing at her, trying to see if she looked human, but the more I looked, the less I understood what I was seeing. She wasn't just a stranger, she was something else, something that had lived in my past without me realizing it. When we got to the hill, the city lights stretched out in front of us, and she started talking about my first crush again, the small details that I thought I had forgotten, the notes I read in middle school, the time I accidentally bumped into the cafeteria table and spilled juice all over my favorite shirt. Every memory came out like it was a scene from a movie, and I felt sick. I wanted to ask her to stop, but I couldn't. It was like listening to her was a test I didn't want to fail. I eventually realized she wasn't going to tell me anything about herself. I didn't know her story, her hometown, nothing. She refused to give details, and whenever I tried to steer the conversation toward her, she turned it back to me. It was exhausting. I felt like I was being interrogated by a ghost that only knew my life, not hers. And then it hit me. This wasn't about a date. This wasn't about getting to know each other or having fun. This was about control. She didn't want to meet me. She wanted to hold my life in her hands, to know it better than I did, to twist it like it belonged to her. I told her I had to go. I didn't explain why. I just needed airspace to remember who I was without her narrating it for me. She smiled, not like a person, but like someone who already knew I was leaving and didn't care. I walked back down the hill alone, my phone buzzing in my pocket, probably a message from her, probably containing something else I had thought no one could know. I didn't look. I just kept walking, trying to put distance between us, trying to remind myself that my past was mine, that I wasn't just a story for someone else to read. When I got home, I checked my phone. There was a text from her saying she had a good time. Nothing personal, nothing revealing about herself, just a simple text. I didn't reply. I didn't know what to say. I still don't. Every time I close my eyes, I see her smile, see her eyes scanning me like a book she's memorized, like she has all the answers to questions I didn't even ask. I deleted the app. I blocked her number. I even considered moving, but I know she doesn't need to meet me again to know me. She already does. Every childhood memory, every awkward mistake, every tiny embarrassing moment, it's all out there now, and there's nothing I can do to take it back. Sometimes I think about that hill, the city lights, her voice narrating my life like it's some script she's performing for herself. I try to laugh it off, try to tell myself I'm being paranoid, but the truth is I can't. I don't know who she is. I don't know how she knew, and I don't want to find out. I just keep my blinds closed, my phone off, hoping she moves on to someone else. But part of me knows that she won't. She doesn't need to. She already owns a part of me I can never get back, and I can't even see her doing it. I keep thinking I might be imagining it all, but then I remember the exact sound of her laugh when she mentioned my dog, the one that died when I was 12. That laugh is burned into my memory, and I know it's real. I didn't even mean to go on a date that night. I was supposed to just scroll through my phone while I live alone in my small apartment, eat cold leftovers, and try not to think about work for 5 minutes. But I read a notification from a dating app, and for some reason, her face popped up. She had one of those smiles that looked casual, like she didn't try too hard but somehow nailed it. I swiped right without thinking, and she matched almost immediately. It was the kind of instant match that makes your phone feel heavier, like you just opened a door you didn't know was there. We agreed to meet at this tiny diner that smelled like frying onions and sugar. The kind of place where the stools stick to your jeans if you sit too long. I got there first and picked a booth in the corner, hoping she wouldn't notice the scratches on the table that I had made while waiting for my coffee to cool. She came in about 10 minutes later wearing a jacket that smelled faintly like cedar and cinnamon, the kind of smell you don't expect, but can't forget once you notice it. I figured we'd talk, get some small talk out of the way, maybe eat, and go our separate ways if it didn't click. But everything about her made me think I'd walked into a movie I hadn't auditioned for. The date itself wasn't strange at first. We ordered food, laughed a little at some dumb joke about the coffee, talked about work and movies and the usual stuff. But then she started asking about my apartment, my neighborhood, little things I didn't think mattered. I told her a few stories about the layout of my place, what I like to do on weekends, and she remembered every detail perfectly. I thought it was normal curiosity, maybe even flirting, until she described the exact angle my couch sits at from the window, the tiny crack in the doorframe, even the way my lamp casts shadows on the wall at night. I laughed it off, told myself it was coincidence. After the diner, she asked if I wanted to walk around a nearby park. I said sure, even though the sun was already setting and the streetlights made everything look yellow and slightly off. We walked quietly, just a normal stroll, but my mind kept circling around how she knew all these little things. When I got back home, I thought I'd relax, play some music, scroll through my phone. I barely had time to drop my jacket on the chair before I felt my phone buzz. I looked down, and there they were. Photos. Tons of them. And the thing that made my blood run cold was that I recognized the angles immediately. They were taken from inside my apartment. My living room, my kitchen, my bedroom. One of them was me asleep on my bed. Eyes closed, mouth slightly open, the blanket pulled up to my chest. My first thought was that it had to be some kind of prank. Maybe someone had broken in. Maybe my roommate's brother or some random person who had a key. But the apartment is mine alone. The locks are all changed. No one has a key. I checked the doors and windows. All locked. The pictures kept coming. Another one of me on the bed, but this time closer, like the camera was right next to me. Another showed the lamp I left on when I went to the bathroom, the reflection catching the blanket, and me sleeping under it. I flipped through my phone like I was going to find some kind of explanation, but all I found was more angles, more evidence that someone had been inside while I slept. The weirdest part was that none of them looked like security cameras. None of them looked remotely normal. They looked like someone had been moving around, watching, picking angles, waiting. I tried calling the cops, but they asked if I had any suspects, and the truth is I didn't. I only had her, and I didn't want to sound insane. I didn't want to tell them I had just met her, that she had been to my place once during the date. Although she never stepped inside, I was sure, and that now I had dozens of photos of me in my own bed. I felt trapped. I stayed awake that night, pacing my apartment, looking at every corner, trying to imagine how anyone could have done this. Every time I sat down, I kept expecting my phone to buzz again, expecting more pictures, and then I remembered the small detail she noticed at the diner. The crack in the doorframe. She had mentioned it casually, almost like it didn't matter. I froze. The next day, I couldn't sleep. I walked through the apartment, checking the locks again, checking for cameras, hidden holes, anything. There was nothing. Nothing at all. My apartment looked exactly the same as it always did. But when I looked at my phone, I found more photos. New ones taken after I had woken up, showing me moving around, eating breakfast, brushing my teeth. Every mundane detail of my life recorded without my knowledge. I didn't even know how they got in. I didn't know who could do this without leaving a trace. The only common thread was her. The only thing that had changed in my life was that date. I deleted the app. I blocked her number. I considered changing my locks again, calling a locksmith just to be safe. But even then, I knew it wouldn't help. She didn't need to come inside. She didn't need to touch anything. She just needed to know, and she had it all. Every move, every habit, every inch of my apartment documented. I even unplugged the Wi-Fi, thinking maybe the photos were being sent remotely. I tried to shut everything down, but the photos kept coming. My phone didn't make a sound when they appeared, but I could feel them. Each one a silent accusation. Each one a reminder that my private life wasn't private anymore. I tried staying with friends for a few days, hoping to think straight, hoping to find some way to stop it. But even when I was out, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. That maybe she had been inside, maybe she had seen everything, maybe she was sitting somewhere with a phone like mine, watching, waiting. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. The apartment I live in, the place I used to feel safe, had become a trap. And the worst part was knowing I had no proof. No way to show anyone what had happened without sounding insane. Eventually, I went back because I had to. I had to see my apartment, had to confront it, even if nothing made sense. Everything looked normal. The couch, the lamp, the blankets on the bed. But when I checked my phone, the pictures were still there. I turned it off, smashed the Siam card, but even then, I couldn't stop thinking about them. Every angle, every shot. Every night I had slept thinking I was safe. And the way she smiled that night, the way she moved through the diner, the way she noticed everything. It wasn't just charm. It was preparation. I don't know what she wanted or why she chose me, or if she's doing it to anyone else. I don't know if the photos will ever stop. All I know is that I can't feel safe in my own apartment. I check every lock, every corner, every shadow. I can't sleep properly, and every time my phone buzzes, my heart jumps, thinking there's another one waiting. I can't prove it. I can't warn anyone, and I can't get rid of her. She's out there somewhere, and I can't even imagine what she's seeing now. I even tried moving, thinking maybe if I leave the apartment, she'll stop. But it doesn't matter. It's not about the place. It's about knowing, and now she knows. Everything. Every time I close my eyes, I picture the angles, the photos, the way she must have watched me, the quietness of it all, the way she didn't need to be there physically to be inside my life. It's worse than any break-in. She doesn't steal things. She steals moments, memories, the small private parts of your life you think belong only to you. I don't leave doors unlocked anymore. I don't trust anyone who smiles too casually. And I check my phone every hour, even though I know what I'll find if I open it. Another picture, another proof, another reminder that someone else has my life better documented than I ever could. I don't know if I'll ever feel safe again. I don't know if I want to. I just know that every time I look at that apartment, every time I glance at the bed, every time I hear a small noise, I think of her. And I know she's out there, maybe laughing quietly, maybe clicking a phone, maybe already inside someone else's life, watching them in ways they don't even imagine. I met her on a Thursday night, which sounds normal enough, but from the moment I saw her profile, something about her felt off in the way that makes your stomach twist and your brain refuse to let go. Her smile was bright, her photos casual but personal, like she was letting me see her world without realizing how much it revealed about mine. I swiped right because I thought, why not? Nothing to lose, standard routine. But when we started messaging, it wasn't routine at all. She knew things, little things. Tiny details about my childhood, stories I had never shared online, not even to friends, things I thought were locked away in my own mind. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she had a weird intuition, maybe it was luck. She recounted the time I fell off my bike at age 7 and scraped my knee, the exact tree in the park where it happened, even the way my mom reacted when she saw me crying. I remember sitting there with my phone in my lap, reading her words over and over. My chest tightened. There was no way she knew that, no way. I asked her about it, and she insisted she had never met me before. Our date was at a small diner I used to go to as a teenager, a place I never mentioned online or to anyone. I walked in first, feeling a strange thrill, half excitement, half dread. When she arrived, it felt like I had seen her before, but I knew I hadn't. She sat down across from me, and everything about her presence was precise, like she had memorized the contours of my life without ever being in it. We talked, and again, she recounted moments from my past, almost every detail perfectly correct. I started feeling uneasy. It wasn't just coincidence. She could not know these things. As the night went on, I tried to push it aside, focusing on the casual things, coffee, fries, the neon lights buzzing faintly above us, but she kept circling back to my memories. The arguments my parents had when I was 12, the tiny apartment I lived in when I first moved out, the first concert I ever went to. Every time she said something accurate, my sense of reality wobbled a little. I kept thinking maybe I had shared this somewhere, some digital footprint I had forgotten, but I had checked. Nothing. No posts, no photos, no online journals. I left the diner in a daze, feeling like I was carrying my own life around in her memory. I thought that maybe seeing her again would make it less weird, that maybe she was just extremely observant or talented at reading people. But when we met a week later, it got worse. She remembered me recounting our first date, and she added details I hadn't even noticed myself. She described the way I laughed at a joke I didn't make, the exact placement of my hands on the table, my thought patterns as if she had been inside my head. I started researching her, trying to find any social media, friends, posts, anything to verify her existence outside our interactions. I found nothing. No photos besides the ones she sent me directly, no accounts, no mutual friends, nothing. I began to wonder if I was going insane, if my mind was fabricating this entire woman. But her knowledge was too specific, too precise, too personal to be a hallucination. She knew me better than anyone, even better than I knew myself, and she swore she had never met me before. Then the nightmares started. Not the usual kind, but ones where I was reliving my memories, and she was in them, observing silently. She appeared at my birthday parties, in the schoolyard when I fell off my bike, sitting silently at the edge of family dinners. I woke up with the sensation that someone had been in my room, standing over me, memorizing me, cataloging me. It wasn't just that she knew things, it was that she was present in them, and my memory couldn't distinguish between what really happened and what she had inserted herself into. I stopped seeing friends, stopped going out, stopped sharing anything online. I thought that if I cut myself off, maybe it would protect my past from her reach. But she kept showing up in real life, sometimes in places I went alone, sometimes in subtle ways I could not explain. I would glance down the street, and there she was, walking past me like she had always been there, or sometimes I would see her reflection in windows, even when no one else could see her. I started questioning my own existence. Maybe she wasn't remembering me, maybe she was rewriting me. One evening, I tried confronting her, telling her she had to leave, that I needed space, that this wasn't normal. She just smiled softly and said again that she had never met me before. The words should have comforted me, should have clarified that she wasn't real, but they didn't. They made it worse, because she knew everything about me, and yet there was no record of her knowing me at all. It was like she existed only in relation to me, like my life had been prepared as a stage for her, and I was discovering it too late. My home started changing. Photos on my walls shifted subtly when I wasn't looking, rearranging themselves in ways I didn't recognize. Drawers I had left closed opened overnight, and objects I never owned appeared. The more I tried to assert control, the more the environment around me adapted, as if it was accommodating her presence. I realized then that it wasn't just my memories she remembered, it was my reality. My life was bending around her existence, and I couldn't fight it. At this point, my friends stopped returning messages. People at work acted like I was a ghost, someone who had always been slightly out of sync with the world. I began to check my own ID, my bank accounts, emails, and gradually, documents I had used for years no longer had my information. My apartment leases, bills, even my name on the mailbox started fading, replaced by a neutral blur, like I had never existed. I could see myself disappearing in increments, and I had no explanation for why it was happening. The scariest part was when I realized no one else seemed to see her at all. At gatherings, parties, in public, I would point her out, and people looked through me as if I was making things up. I tried leaving my apartment to meet her, to confirm reality, but she never appeared anywhere others could see her. It was as if she existed only for me, and the more she existed for me, the less the world recognized me. I started to document everything obsessively, writing it all down, saving photos, recording videos. But the files corrupted instantly. Notes vanished. Even my phone acted like my presence was temporary, randomly deleting contacts, messages, and apps I had relied on for proof of my existence. I became unsure if anything I did actually mattered. She remained perfectly consistent, entirely intact in my memory, while I was slowly dissolving into an untraceable version of myself. I tried leaving the city, moving far away, changing names, changing routines, hoping that separating from her would stop this. But everywhere I went, her absence was just as sharp, as if her existence had already rewritten the world before I arrived. My identity was fragile, and reality itself seemed to be correcting around her memory. I wasn't sure if I was running from her or running from myself, because every reflection, every recognition, every acknowledgement of my life was slipping away. At some point, I stopped trying to prove anything. I walk now through streets that might not exist in anyone else's reality, visiting places that only my mind remembers as real. I see her sometimes, at the edge of vision, perfectly present, and it is terrifying and comforting at the same time. She has not changed. I have. Slowly, inevitably, I am fading. The world forgets me, and yet she is there, a constant impossibility. The person I was is disappearing in layers, and there is nothing left to do but continue moving through a city that doesn't recognize me and holding tight to a memory of her that may not belong anywhere else either. I found her on the app late one night after scrolling for what felt like forever and swiping past dozens of people who were either boring or trying way too hard. Her profile popped up like a glitch in the system, simple, unpretentious, with a smile that somehow looked like it was meant for me. I didn't think much, just swiped right, and almost immediately got the notification she matched back. That was the start, the kind of start that makes you ignore everything else in the world because you feel like something impossible just landed in your lap. We started talking, and it was effortless. Her messages weren't forced, weren't trying to impress. They just fit with my rhythm, like she had been reading my mind without being creepy. I felt a rush of relief, of excitement, the kind you don't get often. We set up a date at a small coffee shop downtown, a place with exposed brick and faint jazz playing through speakers. I got there first, sat by the window, and watched people pass. Then she walked in. It was just like her pictures, but better. Somehow warmer. Somehow realer. I thought maybe I had been dreaming this perfect match into existence, and now the dream had shown up in real life. The date went well. I mean, it was perfect. Conversation flowed, our laughs sensed, and there was this energy, a pull, like we had known each other forever. I felt like I could tell her anything. We walked through the streets after, the city quiet and calm at night, and I kept thinking, this is it. This is what it's supposed to feel like. I even stopped noticing the small oddities at first, the way people in the street seemed to glance past her like she wasn't there, or the way the barista at the coffee shop looked at me with confusion like he didn't see her when he should have. The next day, I wanted to show her to my friends to share the excitement. I pulled up the photos I took, tried to tag her, mention her, and it was like she'd vanished. The pictures were gone. My camera roll didn't have them. I even checked the gallery twice, scrolling through every photo from that day, and nothing existed. I tried showing my friends the app profile, and they all stared at me, confused. They said she wasn't there, that the profile never existed. I thought maybe they were joking, so I pulled it up again, refreshed, searched her name, swiped every possible way. Nothing. She wasn't there. I started questioning myself, but then I remembered the date, the conversation, the feeling of her hand brushing mine as we walked past the streetlight. That was real, right? It had to be real. I could feel it. But when I tried to retrace my steps, the coffee shop had changed. It wasn't the same place I remembered. Tables were arranged differently, the jazz music was gone. Even the staff looked unfamiliar. It was like the city itself was erasing everything she touched. Days passed, and it got worse. I told my friends what happened, but over time, even they started forgetting. It didn't deny me at first. They just stopped responding, stopped referencing things we did together, stopped remembering me in the ways they should. It was like I was slowly unthreading from the world, and she had taken a piece of reality with her. My own phone started acting weird. Texts I remembered sending disappeared. Screenshots I swore I had taken no longer existed. Emails vanished from my account. I felt myself slipping, like I was becoming a ghost in my own life. I tried to find her again on the app, on social media, through mutual connections. Nothing. It was as if she had never existed, except in the edges of my memory, in fragments that felt like they belonged to someone else's life. I questioned my sanity, tried to write everything down in a journal, but even the entries started fading. I'd read a page about her, then come back later to read it, and the words were gone. My memories were unreliable, fragile, as if the world itself wanted me to forget. I went back to the city streets where we had walked, hoping to find some clue, some physical trace. The streets were familiar but wrong. The coffee shop didn't exist in the same spot. The streetlights didn't align with how I remembered them. People passed by, but they acted like I wasn't there. I started noticing that not only could no one see her, but some people barely noticed me. A barista handed me my coffee like I was invisible. A pedestrian bumped into me and kept walking, eyes glazed, as if I wasn't solid. My existence felt temporary, like I was fading frame by frame from the world. Every place I went that reminded me of her started changing, becoming unrecognizable, and I realized with a sick feeling that she had done more than disappear. She had erased the traces of me too. Photos, receipts, even my apartment seemed slightly off. I found a note I thought I had left on the fridge, and it wasn't mine anymore. It was written in my handwriting, but the words were wrong, as if someone else had been practicing being me. The more I tried to hold on to what was real, the less the world let me. I thought about calling her, leaving messages in the app, tracking her online, but I had no proof she existed. My account on the dating app had been deleted. The app itself started acting strangely. Profiles I had matched with were gone. Notifications appeared for events I didn't attend. I'd opened the app one night, and my own profile didn't exist. Not for me, not for anyone. My entire digital footprint was vanishing, and I felt my presence in the physical world doing the same. I tried to talk to people about it, to warn them, but no one remembered me. Friends, coworkers, even family, they looked at me like I was wrong, confused, maybe even lying. A year's worth of interactions, memories, social connections, all gone from the collective reality around me. I walked through my old neighborhoods, recognized nothing. Familiar streets, buildings, even the small bookstore I used to love seemed to have no memory of me. My own life was becoming a blank slate, and I was the only one left remembering it. I started noticing that her image, her memory, had started to seep into my perception of the city. Street corners I didn't recognize suddenly felt like places we had walked. Cafes I never visited felt like our meeting spot. But no one else acknowledged them. No one else remembered her. No one else even noticed me anymore. It was like she'd rewritten the world to accommodate the impossible memory of her, and the cost was me slowly dissolving from existence. I have started documenting things in private, trying to keep evidence of my existence alive, but I feel the weight of futility pressing down. Every photo I take disappears. Every note I make in my phone vanishes. The world no longer registers me, and I am scared that one day soon I will disappear entirely, leaving nothing behind except the faint memory of someone who might have been perfect and a man who once thought he lived in a world that made sense. Now I live in the spaces where she left impressions. Empty streets that feel like echoes, cafes that feel like memories of laughter, and apartments that feel like someone else's life. I am a ghost waiting for proof of reality, clinging to fragments of a world that no longer contains me. Every time I close my eyes, I see her smile, and I remember that she was real to me, even if no one else believes it, even if no one else remembers me. I exist only in the margins, the corners, the leftover shadows of a life that has been slowly erased. I wasn't really in the mood to use the dating app that night. It had been one of those days where work felt endless. My apartment smelled like burnt coffee from the machine I forgot to clean, and I just wanted to eat a frozen pizza and watch bad reality TV. But the app notification lit up my phone, and curiosity got the better of me. I swiped a few profiles, laughed at the dumb bios, and then stopped on one guy who seemed normal. Average in a way that made me think, maybe I could just see what happens. I swiped right, and he matched instantly. Fine, whatever, I thought. Small thrill. Nothing serious. We started messaging casually, and at first, it was fine. Standard conversation. I said no to his first suggestion of meeting because I wasn't feeling it, and then the weird stuff began. Within hours, he seemed angry, not overtly, but like his energy was leaking into my app. His messages got more insistent, like he was watching me scroll, timing my responses, gauging my interest. I tried ignoring it, hoping he'd calm down. Instead, my profile started to shift. It started small at first. The music I listed in my bio changed. Songs I had never listened to appeared ones I knew he had in his profile. My favorite movie section updated itself overnight, suddenly reflecting his top picks. I thought it was a glitch. Maybe the app had updated. But then the photos started changing. My selfies, all carefully selected over months, slowly got replaced with ones that looked like me but subtly posed in ways that mirrored his profile photos. Same lighting, same angle, same smirk. By the next morning, everything about my profile screamed him. Even my short personal description, which I had written with specific jokes and phrasing unique to me, had been edited. It was now using the same phrases he used, the same emojis, the same quirky sentence structures. I froze. I tried to log out, delete the app, uninstall it, but when I reopened it, it was the same. The profile I thought I owned wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to him, or at least to the idea of him that the app had implanted. I tried asking friends if they saw anything different, hoping I was imagining it, but they all said I looked the same, nothing weird about my profile. I showed them screenshots of my old bio saved on my phone, and their reactions shifted from curiosity to unease. They couldn't explain it either. Some suggested it was a weird algorithm thing, maybe a sensing glitch. I knew better. Algorithms don't steal identities piece by piece. They don't rewrite your taste to mimic a single person's. Then the messages started coming. He sent me screenshots of my updated profile, as if to prove he was watching. And the scariest part wasn't just that he could see it, it was that he didn't need to. The app was doing it automatically. Each update seemed timed perfectly to his activity, his preferences, his likes. I started noticing that the way I scrolled through my profile matched his patterns. Like profiles in the same order, pause on photos the same way, laughed at bios in the same timing. It was like my actions weren't mine own anymore. I tried resetting everything. New password, new email, even tried creating a completely new account under a different name. Within hours, the new profile started morphing too. Photos from his profile started appearing, favorites synced with his likes, jokes and phrases I didn't use became mine. I couldn't escape. I felt trapped inside a version of myself that had become him, pixel by pixel. It got worse when I started receiving emails from the app with changes I hadn't made yet. A song in my bio that I had no intention of adding would appear as if he had updated it minutes before. An old photo I didn't even remember taking, one that vaguely resembled me but wasn't me exactly, popped up as my profile picture. Every time I blinked, every time I thought of deleting the app, it had already anticipated me. I started avoiding my phone. I deleted the app from every device I owned. I thought that maybe physical deletion would help. But the next morning, while brushing my teeth, I checked my reflection in the bathroom mirror, and there was something off. My posture, the tilt of my head, the expression I had unconsciously, it mimicked him exactly. I had never noticed before how similar our mannerisms could be, but now it was like a puppet had taken over my movements, aligning them to his. I tried telling myself it was stress, a hallucination born from anxiety over dating. I stopped using social media entirely, avoided my friends, even skipped work to stay inside. But the updates kept coming in my dreams, in flashes when I checked the mirror, in the way my own hands seemed to pose for photos I never intended to take. I could see it happening live. My own profile editing itself on another phone across the city. It was slow at first, subtle edits, but unmistakable. At some point, I realized I couldn't trust any part of myself. I would open the fridge and find groceries I didn't buy, arranged like his kitchen setup from his profile photos. The playlists on my phone changed without me touching them. Even my apartment, the way I left cushions on the couch or books on the shelf, started resembling the small details from his photos, not perfectly, but disturbingly close. Like he had downloaded me and was slowly remaking me in his image. I stopped interacting with anyone. I even avoided mirrors. I couldn't tell what I looked like anymore because in every reflection, in every screen, I felt like I was seeing pieces of him stitched onto me. My own identity felt borrowed. Each morning, waking up was terrifying. My body moved, but my decisions no longer felt mine. Every glance at the app, or the ghost of it in my memory, made me shiver, even though I was trying not to. Friends stopped reaching out, thinking I had gone quiet or maybe fallen off the grid. I didn't correct them. I didn't explain because there was no explanation. If anyone else saw my profile now, they would think it was just me being quirky, maybe updating my tastes, maybe liking things I didn't. But it wasn't me. Not anymore. Each click, each swipe, each photo reflected his preferences, his aesthetic, his choices. I was just a container now, a living version of his profile. The worst part was realizing how easily it had happened. One rejected match, one unmatch on my part, and suddenly my life, my identity, my tastes, even my body language, all became a reflection of him. I couldn't escape. He didn't have to touch me, didn't have to know where I lived. It didn't matter. He was already inside the code of me, and I could see it happening in real time. I can't describe the relief or peace of this disappearing. There is none. I have tried everything. Leaving the city, changing devices, wiping all accounts. Nothing works. Somewhere, some way, pieces of me are still updating themselves according to his preferences. I know I am slowly becoming someone else, even as I write this. Even as I try to assert my own tastes, the app, or whatever force it became, overrides me. I am losing myself in increments, and the terrifying part is I can't stop watching it happen. Now I just exist in a half-life of decisions that are mine only in appearance. My favorite songs, my favorite movies, the way I pose in photos, the phrases I use, even the way I tilt my head when I laugh. It's all filtered through him. I can't tell where I end and where he begins. Every reflection, every notification, every memory feels like a simulation I am trapped inside. My profile no longer represents me, it represents him. and it doesn't matter if I'm aware of it or not. The process is ongoing. I have stopped fighting. I can't fight what I no longer fully own. Every time I glance at my phone, I see the ghost of his preferences mirrored back at me. It doesn't matter that he's far away, that we've never met in person, that I rejected him once. My own identity has been rewritten, line by line, photo by photo, like a virus inside me, and I am powerless to stop it. I feel myself fading, being remade, and I don't know how much longer I will be me at all. It started on a Thursday night, the kind of Thursday where you tell yourself you'll just scroll for 10 minutes and end up awake until 2 in the morning, wondering why your life feels like a waiting room. I was sitting on my bed, the TV on low and my laptop open, scrolling through the dating app when her picture caught my eye. There was something unsettlingly calm about her. Not a model-perfect calm, not stage, but the kind that made you feel like she was looking through the screen right into your room. I swiped right without thinking and got that instant notification she had matched back. We started talking, and it was surprisingly easy. Funny, sharp, someone who actually kept up with the conversation without making it awkward. After a few days of messaging, we decided to meet at a small tapas place in the arts district, the kind of place where you feel like the walls are holding a century of secrets. I got there first and picked a table near the window. She arrived 10 minutes later, her hair pulled back loosely, her eyes fixed on me like she was trying to memorize my face. Something about the way she stared made my stomach tighten, but I told myself I was just nervous. The date was fine at first. Drinks, small plates, laughter at the waiter's corny jokes. But the more I looked at her, the more I noticed something I couldn't explain. She never blinked. Not once. I stared for a while, thinking maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but no, I counted in my head, and her eyes didn't close, not even for a second. It was subtle at first, almost easy to miss, but once you notice, you can't unsee it. We left the tapas place and walked down a quiet street lined with old brick buildings and streetlights buzzing faintly in the night. She kept staring, always staring, and the fact that she didn't blink started to feel oppressive. Like she was consuming every detail of me and the street and storing it somewhere in a way I couldn't reach. I tried to shake it off, tell myself I was being paranoid, that it wasn't real. But it was. Her eyes didn't move the way human eyes do. There was no moisture, no flicker, nothing. Just stillness. We went back to her apartment because she suggested a nightcap, and it was a typical place at first glance. Books on shelves, a few art prints, a faint smell of coffee. I thought I'd relax, but her eyes followed me like I was a character in a show she already knew the ending to. Every movement I made, she noticed. Every sip of my drink, every glance at her shelves, she observed without blinking. I tried to focus on something else, anything else, but it was impossible. It was like staring into a mirror that reflected only my anxieties. After a while, I couldn't stand it anymore. I asked her, finally, about the eyes, pointed it out. She tilted her head slightly, the motion smooth, too smooth, and asked, "What's blinking?" That stopped me cold. I realized she genuinely didn't understand the concept of blinking. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't a lie. She didn't know my world. She didn't experience it. Her body was human, her skin and hair human, but her eyes were something else entirely. Something alien. I tried to leave it in my head, to rationalize it, but the longer I stayed, the more I noticed other oddities. The way she walked didn't make the small noises normal feet make. The way she held objects felt rehearsed, like she knew what they were supposed to feel like but hadn't experienced them herself. I went home that night and couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, eyes wide open, unwavering, following me even in my imagination. I kept replaying the night, remembering how normal everything looked, how familiar the apartment felt, but knowing that what I had seen wasn't normal, wasn't natural, wasn't human. The next few dates were even worse. Each time she didn't blink. Not at dinner, not walking through the park, not when we watched a movie in her living room. I started noticing other things, like the way she never seemed to breathe in sync with her body. Her chest rose and fell, yes, but the timing was slightly off. She smiled at the right moments, laughed at the right times, but it felt like she had downloaded the human behaviors and was running a flawless simulation. I started counting seconds, just to reassure myself that she was alive, and even then it didn't make sense. Her eyes never moved. Ever. One night, we sat on a rooftop overlooking the city, the streetlights stretching for blocks, the sky a hazy black. I tried talking to her about normal stuff, about life, about work, but I couldn't get past the eyes. I stared, trying to detect a flicker, a blink, anything. But there was nothing. It was like staring into glass, polished and empty. I realized I was scared, and it wasn't fear for my safety, it was fear for reality itself. I couldn't tell if she was human, if the world was normal, or if I was the only one experiencing things the way they were supposed to happen. The thing that made it worse was that she didn't notice my fear. She noticed nothing that didn't fit her simulation of human interaction. The barista calling her name, the wind brushing my jacket, the small neon sign flickering on a nearby building, all of it was real to me but didn't register in her attention. Only me, only my words, only my movements. She didn't blink, she didn't breathe right, she didn't feel. I started bringing friends around, trying to test her, to see if someone else would notice, but she acted completely normal to everyone else. They laughed with her, touched her arm, joked with her, and she responded appropriately. It was only me. Only me who noticed the eyes. Only me who could feel the gap between human and imitation. The more I tried to rationalize, the less sense it made. I couldn't tell if she was some kind of sophisticated experiment, a person pretending so well that no one could see, or something that didn't belong in my reality. I stopped dating for a while after that. I stopped even using the app, but she kept appearing. In my dreams and reflections, in moments where I would swear she was in the corner of a room I had just entered. Her eyes, still unblinking, still waiting. I didn't know what she wanted, if she wanted anything at all, but the fact that I could not understand her, could not predict her, could not even see her act naturally, made me feel like the ground had shifted beneath me permanently. I moved apartments, thinking maybe distance would help, but the memory stayed. The eyes, her gaze, the way nothing about her was ordinary, not even the imperfection that makes humans human. I don't think I'll ever forget the moment she asked me what blinking was. That tiny question stripped my understanding of normalcy down to dust. I can't tell if anyone else would notice it. I can't test it. I just know it's real. I know what I saw, and the world I live in suddenly feels like a fragile imitation. Sometimes I think about going back, seeing if it was just a trick my mind played. But then I imagine her face, those unblinking eyes, and I realize I don't want to. I don't want to know what it really is or if it exists beyond me. I don't want to find out if anyone else sees it, because then maybe the world wouldn't make sense to anyone. I can only live my life remembering the dates, the conversations, the rooftop, and that impossible stare. It's burned into my memory, permanent and empty, and I can't erase it, even if I wanted to. I was scrolling through the app on a lazy Tuesday, sitting on my bed with a half-empty cup of tea and my cat pawing at the blanket when her profile popped up. Something about her photo made me pause. Maybe it was the way the light hit her face, the casual grin like she wasn't trying to impress anyone, but still did. I swiped, she swiped. Match. I told myself it was just another profile, another person I might meet for coffee, and then forget about. The second her name popped up in my messages, my stomach did that weird flip you get when something feels off in the quiet way, not in a loud warning kind of way. We started chatting casually and it was fine at first. The usual back and forth, sharing favorite shows, music, complaining about work. I wasn't even thinking seriously about meeting her until she suggested grabbing drinks at this tiny rooftop bar near the river. I agreed, thinking why not. It was summer, the city smelled like hot asphalt and street food, and I hadn't done anything social in weeks. I got there first, sat on a corner stool that wobbled slightly, and watched her climb the stairs. She looked exactly like her pictures, but somehow alive in a way photos can't capture. The date itself was normal at first. Drinks, laughs, easy conversation. But then she started doing this thing where she named things in the room that I barely noticed, like the tiny painting above the bar that I hadn't really paid attention to before, or the scuff marks on the floor. I laughed it off, thinking she had a good eye. Then she brought up a restaurant I used to go to with my old roommate, the specific table we always sat at, the way the light hit the wall in the evening. I was impressed, kind of weirded out, but brushed it off. After the date, we kept talking, but it started getting strange fast. She began saying things like we'd been married for years, talking about our supposed home together, the sofa we picked, the vacation we went on, the way I liked my coffee in the morning. At first, I thought she was joking, maybe just trying to creep me out, so I laughed nervously. But then she started sending me photos. Photos of a living room that looked exactly like mine, a bedroom I recognized down to the throw pillows, a kitchen with the exact tile pattern I have. But I never remembered any of it. I never lived with her, never planned vacations, never picked out furniture together. I stared at the first photo for so long I almost couldn't breathe. The couch was mine. The rug was mine. Even the mug on the table was the one I use every morning. But I had no memory of ever taking that picture, no memory of her being there, no memory of anything she claimed. I called my apartment a dozen times in my head, retracing everything, trying to remember a single shared moment. Nothing came. My cat jumped on the bed, and I realized even my little routines had been subtly mirrored in these pictures. Then came the next ones, her in the kitchen, pretending to make coffee like she'd done it 100 times before. On the balcony, the skylight behind her, the exact way the sun hit the window I watch every morning. I couldn't tell if she'd staged them or if they were from some other reality where we actually existed together. It was terrifying in a way I couldn't name. I felt like my apartment, my life, my history, had been invaded and rearranged into a story I never lived. I tried to tell myself it was a coincidence, some kind of elaborate trick. Maybe someone had gone through my social media and staged the photos elsewhere, but no, everything matched. The angles, the furniture, the small details I barely noticed. She knew the way I arranged things, the way I left my laptop, even how I folded my blanket at night. I couldn't sleep for nights. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her in the photos, smiling like she belonged there, like she was part of my life in a way that didn't make sense. I started noticing little things outside the photos. A mug I left on the counter would be slightly moved when I returned. The chair by the desk sometimes seemed closer to the window than I remembered leaving it. I would catch shadows in the corner of my eye, but every time I turned, nothing was there. My phone would buzz at weird times, notifications from her popping up with no message, just the app open like she was waiting for me to look. I stopped inviting friends over. I stopped trusting my own memories. I would sit in my apartment, staring at objects I had arranged for years, trying to remember if I had done it or if she had already been there. The thought of her walking through my life, taking pictures, creating memories I didn't have, made me physically nauseous. I even thought about leaving, selling everything, moving out of the city, but then I realized she didn't need the place to exist in my life. She was already there. Eventually, I confronted her online, asking her to explain the photos. She replied casually, sending even more. One showed the corner of the sofa with a blanket folded the way I always folded, her hand holding a mug, the skyline out the window just as it looks at night. Another was her leaning against the doorway of my bedroom, smiling like we were just talking before bed. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't tell anyone, not really. Even my friends would think I was crazy. Even writing it down felt unreal. After that, she started sending them more often, sometimes 3 or 4 a day. I started taking photos of my apartment myself, thinking maybe I could catch her somehow, but every time I looked at her photos again, they were slightly different. The couch cushion might be slightly shifted, the mug in a different spot, the blanket folded differently. She was following me in real time, or somehow predicting me, or both. I stopped leaving anything out of place. I stopped living. My apartment became a shrine to predictability, and still she was there. I tried blocking her, deleting the app, changing passwords, but nothing worked. The photos kept coming. Even if I didn't look at them, I knew they were there. Every time I walked around my apartment, I felt eyes on me, even when it was empty. I rearranged furniture, changed rugs, moved bookshelves, but she adapted. She was always a step ahead, already inside my life, already married in a reality that didn't exist for me. The strangest part is that I started to notice the world around me reflected in the photos. The hallway light outside my door, the angle of the sunlight hitting my desk, even the way my cat would curl up on the chair. Everything matched the pictures before I had seen them. It was like she was sensing with me, like our timelines were overlapping in ways I couldn't understand. I stopped sleeping in my bedroom, opting for the couch, but she found that too, sending a picture of me asleep there while the blanket was still folded just right. I stopped answering the phone. I stopped answering messages. I even stopped opening the app entirely, but the photos still found me. Sometimes they came through email, sometimes through the cloud. Sometimes I would find them in my phone gallery with no memory of them being downloaded. I tried telling myself it was all digital manipulation, but then I would see tiny details my camera couldn't have captured, the precise lighting, shadows, reflections that only existed at the exact moment I saw them. She was there. She was in my life. She was inside it in ways I couldn't stop, in ways I couldn't prove, in ways I couldn't explain. Now, months later, I live like a ghost in my own apartment. Every sound makes me jump. Every shadow on the wall reminds me of her. Every time my phone buzzes, I flinch. I see her in photos everywhere I look, smiling like she belongs, like we've been together all along. The apartment looks the same, feels the same, smells the same, but it isn't mine anymore. She's taken it, taken me, taken all the moments I didn't remember, and turned them into proof that we were married in a life I never lived. I can't live normally anymore. I can't leave things where they are. I can't trust my own memory. She's already there in every angle, every corner, every reflection. I can see the way she moves through it, and I can't escape her. I keep telling myself that someday it will stop, that someday the photos will end, but I know that isn't true. She's not interested in stopping. She's just interested in the story she made me live without asking, the life she insists we shared, and the apartment that doesn't belong to her, but somehow does now.